Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace episode 321 on Sifted Games at Sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, your host for the next couple hours of intense game discussion, and alongside me to take part is Matt Kyle. What's up, Matt?
Contact.
Yeah.
Is the reason.
Contact.
Yeah.
That dates us for sure.
A little bit.
What year did they stop doing 3-2-1 Contact?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, that was a long
time ago. Probably around the same time they stopped doing Captain Kangaroo and a bunch of other shows that we watched as kids. Did you watch Captain Kangaroo?
On and off.
Yeah.
Wasn't my favorite.
Yeah. Mr. Green Jeans was one of the characters.
Yeah, I didn't. I was never into the kindly older man hosting the children's show thing. Even Mr. Rogers, I always found something felt off there.
Although he is legitimately like the nicest
he really
guy
was
on the planet.
Like,
and it never turned out that he was a creep or anything.
No,
like he was just a good dude.
Yeah, but like as a kid, I'm just like, nah.
It's something off.
I don't see any need, because like the premise of the show is kind of like you were going to visit this guy, and I'm like, nah, I'm all right.
I like my house.
Yeah. At least on Sesame Street, you were outside, you could get away if the bird went wild, you know? Like,
that's freaking funny. Hey, everyone. How are you guys doing? I hope you've had a good week since we last touched base with you guys last Tuesday here at twitch.tv/SiftedGames. Still got some great games for today's show. That'll be 3 awesome shows in a row with big games. Next week, I don't know if I can promise that, but we'll see how it goes.
Got Need for Speed coming.
That's true. That, out of nowhere, actually, it's coming. I do think we'll have pretty good shows for the rest of the year, honestly. And obviously, as usual, the last show of the year will be our Game of the Year awards. And actually, today, we have something that we always do every year as well, and that is our Turkey Awards, because Thanksgiving is coming up on Thursday. And the Turkey Awards are where Matt and I have a chance to, and I always say this, I hate to always send people off on the Thanksgiving holiday on a sour note. But the Turkey Awards are our chance to kind of dig into a couple topics, games, people in the games industry or whatever that kind of pissed us off throughout the year in some way, shape, or form.
It could just be called We're Still Mad About This Awards.
You mad. Just call it You Mad. Yes, we are mad.
Here in the 2022 Jimmy's Rustled Awards.
Oh, man. You're funny today, Matt. So anyway, we are doing our Turkey Awards today. And that is a tradition that has come from the game trailers days. We used to do that on invisible walls on game trailers for years and years. Every time we do the Turkey Awards and I'm putting together my picks, I always think of Ryan Stevens, because he was always the guy who reminded me that we needed to do the Turkey Awards for that episode of Invisible Walls. So it's a tradition that we've had going now between this show and Invisible Walls for probably like 11 or 12 years now. We're going to deliver those to you guys today on GameFace 321.
Need for Speed is early if you have the collector's thing.
Oh, that's right.
I think the collector's one, early access, will be early enough to talk about next week.
Yeah, and I get code from EA anyway, like advanced review code. So
yeah, the codes always have the early access on them.
Yep.
Even if you don't want it.
Callisto Protocol, also December 2nd.
Yep.
But that will be, I don't think I'll get review code of that. I haven't connected with like the PR people who handle Krafton and all those companies yet.
It'll be probably, I think, 2 weeks before we do Callisto Protocol and Midnight Suns.
Yeah. It's going to finish strong. The year has finished strong ultimately after being a pretty abysmal year for video game releases. The last month and a half have turned out to be okay. There's something decent to play pretty much every week, and some people are still trying to get through God of War Ragnarok. So, despite 2022 being really disappointing and so many games being delayed into 2023, I think ultimately at the end of the year, we're okay. Mm-hmm. And there was really good stuff at the beginning of the year, some decent stuff at the end of the year, and then just a wasteland in the middle. And it was hard to get through that wasteland, but we did it together. Let's check in with you guys in our chat and see what you're up to today. And thanks some of you guys for Twitch Prime. As I mentioned last week, we are really getting hurt on Twitch Prime anymore. Like, people just aren't doing it anymore. It was bad because, obviously, I was on vacation, and then I had COVID. But even before that, our numbers were starting to go down. So if you guys can remember to do that, that would be awesome. Let's see. Disembodied Voice, thank you. Trigger, thank you. Wampler13, thanks. Sound Wizard, thank you very much. The Deadly Dad, thank you for Twitch Prime. Timbo, thank you. Nexus 6 Baddie, thank you. Pharaoh Doll, thank you for subscribing at Tier 1. That's been 10 months. That's awesome, man. The Big Smoke 82, thank you for Twitch Prime. Axel F 1986, MHG and Morton Joe, thank you. A bunch of you guys. Toast 9, thanks. And I think that's it. Yeah. Someone said we just got a song in their head. We put a song in their head or something.
The 3-2-1 contest.
Oh. So there is somebody who's old enough to know what we were talking about. I'm sure all the people on YouTube are going to be like, WTF.
Yeah.
I have no clue.
I don't know if that played in Europe. So.
Anyway,
PBS thing.
Thanks all you guys for Twitch Prime. It makes a huge difference for us, and we do rely on it just to keep operating. So we appreciate every single one of you guys who takes the time. Not Cirque. Thank you. 42 months of subscribing with Twitch Prime. That's amazing, man. Thank you so much. Otherwise, it's been a pretty mellow week in the games industry. Not a ton of releases, not a ton of big news stories. But we do have some big games to talk with you guys about today, and we have a good show. We're going to kick things off with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The 9th generation, mainline anyway, Pokemon. It is the second Pokemon game, although the first mainline game, to have at least some semblance of an open world. Although this game actually legitimately has an open world.
Yeah, they definitely head fake in that direction on this one.
Yeah.
And they try to kind of like show, so, hey, look, come up here and look at everything. It's like, that's amazing pop-in you've got there. They're not quite up to it, but they're trying.
Yeah, we'll get to the technical issues because the funny part about this game is if you read some reviews or you watch some podcasts about it, people drone on and on about its technical performance and how bad it looks, and they're not wrong. Those are definitely huge problems, but to me, the game has other gigantic problems. Like, I can get over the graphics and the stuttering, like, for the most part. There's just other parts of the game that haven't really jived with me so far. The story in the game, have you even figured out what the story is in this, Matt? It doesn't really feel like there is one.
I mean, beyond, like, another Pokemon game, and now you're in an academy instead of randomly going around trying to win the championships.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how. I'm not sure if I'm done with a prologue yet, because I did all this stuff, and I got the starter, and got the motorcycle guy, and talked to all the people, and I went to the town, and I went to the academy, and went through the academy introduction stuff, and and I'm like, is the game happening yet? Like,
have you not fought a gym leader yet?
No, I think I'm about to do that.
There's no prologue in the game. There's not like this moment where you do something and the logo comes up across the screen or anything like that. Like, it just starts.
Well, I just mean, like, when you're done kind of doing the tutorial stuff that introduces you to this is how this version of the game works, and now you're kind of booted out in the world to go, work your way through the gym leaders. It doesn't feel like that's happened yet. Especially because usually in the other games, that happens in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And this thing feels like it has a lot more on-ramp than the usual Pokemon mainline game does.
Well, I think it kind of happened when the mom sets you free. She turns you loose to, like, your
Yeah, but you're
rival.
still stuck in, like, here's how you do a Pokemon battle. Here's how you walk through a cave. Here's how you climb a thing. Here's how it feels very railroady, even for Pokemon standards. Early on, I mean, not that that's necessarily a huge flaw, but there was a point where I'm like, can I just run around and do whatever I want? And you can, but you can't leave the, like, areas they tell you to go run around in, which is fine because there's a lot of Pokemon to catch, a lot of stuff to do.
No, eventually you do that.
But eventually you can do that. Yeah, but, like, it just seems like it took longer than normal to get to the part where, like, no one was trying to tell you what to do anymore.
Yeah, there's no real story in this game. Honestly,
I mean, there's something going on with, like, that weird guy, and his father clearly created the Transformer Pokemon that you get, like the cover.
The Terra,
guys. Yeah, whatever. I mean, I assume you have the Violet.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, because my code was Scarlet, so I assume
I have the Violet. Yeah.
So I have the red motorcycle guy,
and I have the purple motorcycle guy,
and, like, it's weird. Also, like, I mean, this is pretty much the same opening that I get, except instead of this, it's the red guy flying around, and he doesn't actually buzz the tower. Also, the close-ups of the red guy's eye are way worse. Like, it's embarrassing. like the opening with him, because there's these close-ups of the character, and they didn't use a different model for the close-ups, so it's just like this model is not supposed to be seen that close, and like you're just.
I don't think anything in this game is meant to be seen up close.
This in particular was like, oh wow, like
well, I have said wow playing this game more than any other game this year.
Yeah, not in a good way,
right? In like a wow type way, like, but there's no real plot. Like, there are themes, like they kind of beat you over the head eventually about bullying and stuff like that, but like
there are little things happening on the side, but like none of it just feels like you're kind of in the room for it. Like, you're not really involved.
And as you say,
even the motorcycle Pokemon just sort of happens to you.
Yeah, you find it laying on the beach.
Yeah.
Like, there it is. Like, what luck I've had. By the way, sometimes I mention on GameFace that the B-roll that we're showing is stuttering, not because the game actually stutters, but because we've had to convert the footage to run on the TriCaster, blah, blah, blah. This is a case where what you're seeing is legit.
Yeah, if this thing stutters if you look at it funny.
And just there are so, and again, we'll get into it a little bit later, but the graphics in this game are just a travesty. Just across the board, just a complete disaster. But there's really no plot. Like, eventually, you get to a point where they introduce, like, these 3 different pathways. One of them is like the main pathway that you'd usually play in any Pokemon game. One is called Starfall Street. Starfall Street is like where you raid Team Star's bases. Team Star is the rival gang in this one. You end up going and raiding their bases. You have like 10 minutes to defeat 30 Pokemon using the Let's Go mechanic. That is one thing they brought over from Let's Go Pikachu, is the ability to send your Pokemon out to fight other Pokemon, other wild Pokemon, and collect stuff all on their own. Like, you just tap the R button, they go off and do their own thing. And that is a good thing from Let's Go that they brought over here, and they incorporate it into the one path, the Starfall Street path. Victory Road is what I said is your standard becoming the Pokemon Quest. And then there's one called Path of Legends, where you help this character named Arvin. He's the son of the region's professor, and you go and you conquer like Titan Pokemon that are popping up all over the land of Paldea, which is where this game all takes place.
AKA Spain.
But again, like, there's no narrative thread to those 3 paths that you ultimately take. And I will say this, you can choose which of those 3 paths you want to pursue. And you can pursue one for a little while, and then you can just go back and start pursuing one of the other 3. I started, obviously, with just the normal, like, I'm going to go and beat all the gym leaders and become the Pokemon champion. But then I went back and started sampling some of the others. I quickly went back to the main quest line, though. I didn't find them to be quite as interesting as just playing through what most people would consider a typical Pokemon game. As we said, the game is open world, and it takes place in a land called Paldea. You can go wherever you want, whenever you want. And that does provide a lot of freedom in how you can tackle the game and how you can tackle each area, in all honesty. But it also presents problems because the Pokemon do not scale. Some parts of the game they scale. Most of the parts they don't. When you're out in the field, they really don't. You can run into a Pokemon that will just destroy you in one hit, and there's no way to tell how powerful a Pokemon is until you engage in the battle and go to the battle screen. And then if they're too powerful, you have to try to run to get away. And if not, they're just going to wipe you out with one shot. That's one thing about the open world that I found to be a drawback. Like, at the very least, I feel like the Pokemon should have, like, maybe their level floating above their head, or maybe
they should be bigger if they're
more powerful, if they're higher level. Some way to designate to the player.
Steam coming off them.
Right,
there's a bunch of ways you can.
There's a ton of ways you could do it.
That is a solved problem in open world games.
Yeah, but in this, they're just like, nope, good luck. And to be fair, for the most part, like, you can count on the wild Pokemon around the area that you're in to be roughly the same level as the other Pokemon that you're fighting from the trainers in that area. But I've also come across trainers that would be like 200 yards away from another trainer that I beat no problem, and the guy whoops me. So the other thing I would say is that the open world makes this game a little more challenging because you end up running into other trainers and Pokemon that you probably shouldn't fight. But what I found myself doing is being like, maybe I can beat this wild Pokemon, or maybe I can beat this trainer. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but the end result is that I do end up losing battles and fights in this a lot more than I have in Pokemon games in the past. I think that's one part of this game where your mileage is going to vary depending on what you like and how you enjoy to play turn-based RPGs. There are lots of buildings in the open world, but you can't really enter any of them. They're all just there for looks. Even when you get into the towns, there's like little shops that you can go to. Like one is like a sandwich shop. Another one is like a place where you just go to buy like basically buffs for your Pokemon, things that they can hold to buff them. And those aren't even indoor. Like you go to the store and you hit the button and it just goes to a menu. You don't even go in the store in those. Even the Pokemon centers in this game are like gas stations now. They're not buildings that you go into. They're like these things that you walk up to that are just plopped down in the open world. So there's not a lot of going indoors. Also in the towns, you'll see like there's not enough stores. So you see the same store multiple times in some of the towns. Like this is like Bobby's first open world RPG. Like that's the best way I could use to describe it. Is like it's the most generic, barely functioning open world RPG that I've played since open world RPGs became a thing, honestly. This is like the first gen of that genre, in my opinion. You come across a lot of people out in the open world, although there aren't as many as there probably should be. And one thing they did change about this that I kind of like, but again, some people may not like, is that when you come across NPCs, you know immediately whether you should talk to them or can talk to them by the color of the bubble above their head. So if it's white, you're not going to have a conversation with that NPC. If it's golden, that means, yes, you're at the very least, you're going to have a conversation, and you might end up in a trainer battle. So when you're going through the open world, you can kind of filter out the people that you want to talk to or don't want to talk to. But I know some people enjoyed that. Talking to all the NPCs, finding that one guy or girl who would give them a rare Pokemon or would be willing to trade their Pokemon or your Pokemon for a rare Pokemon. Things that set the story forward, people that or characters that give you TMs and stuff like all that's kind of gone now. You know before you walk up to an NPC whether it's actually going to interact with you or not. And again, I think some people may like that, some people may not. As Matt alluded to earlier, there are the biggest change to the gameplay in this are the Terra Pokemon. And essentially what it is it's on a cooldown, and when you're in the battle screen, you can hit R1, and then that will kind of change the menu options for your attacks. Certain attacks become more powerful once you do the Terra transformation, and your Pokemon ends up covered in this like shield of crystal. So it becomes tougher and stronger, and certain attacks also become more powerful. Now, the thing about the Terra stuff, Matt, I don't know if you've realized it or not, you're changing the Pokemon type when you terraform. So say you have a grass-type Pokemon. Once you Terra that Pokemon, it can become like a ghost Pokemon or a ground Pokemon or any of the other types. And that adds a lot of strategy to the battles, because it's like you don't have like remember gym battles. Sometimes you would get stuck in a place where, I have a grass Pokemon and this gym is like what kills grass Pokemon. So it becomes very difficult to like get through that. Now you can use the Terra to transform your Pokemon to different types, so you're not locked into that one type. It allows a lot more flexibility in how you play through the game. Now, the one thing I would add is, and I guess you haven't got there yet, but the gym battles are completely different. You don't go into a gym in this game and fight through like a gauntlet of trainers before you get to the gym leader. And those, honestly, were some of the... And here's the Terra stuff we were just talking about. Those were the best parts of Pokemon, where you had to have like a variety of Pokemon in your party just to make sure you could get through. Now, you would know generally what type of Pokemon was going to be, at least the gym leader's Pokemon were going to be. But it was a battle of attrition. Do I have enough potions to get all the way through the gym before I fight the gym leader and beat the gym leader? Do I have enough? Do I have enough revives? All that kind of stuff. That's all gone now. You go to the gym, and they're like, hey, you need to accomplish this really stupid mission objective before you can fight the gym leader. And you'll go out in the open world and accomplish some dumbass mission, and then you come back and fight the gym leader. So it's not like this long, prolonged slog through the gym before you fight the gym leaders in this. And again, that's a big change that some people may like, some people may hate. How do you fall on that, Matt?
I don't really care.
No?
No.
Were the gyms not a highlight of the game for you?
No. The point of Pokemon is to run around and get all the monsters to me.
Okay. Well, that, to me, is way easier and faster in this than maybe any Pokemon game ever.
That does seem to be true so far.
They're just everywhere.
One thing I do appreciate is a couple times I've gotten in fights because I accidentally ran into a Pokemon I didn't see in the tall grass, which is actually what you're supposed to have been doing all this time.
It happens all the time in this. Yeah.
So, like, I think they kind of pulled that off pretty well. It's clearly sort of a halfway measure compared to Arceus.
Yeah.
But they're all there. You choose whether to fight them. You fight them, where you encounter them. It doesn't cut away to a separate battle arena or anything. Mm-hmm. So they are taking those baby steps in that direction. The biggest problem seems to be that they are working. Well, it's a kind of a double-edged sword, I guess, because it feels like, on one hand, it feels like they're working with hardware that can't handle what they're trying to do, but at the same time, we've seen this hardware do better things than this.
Yeah, it's not the hardware's
fault. It seems
fault.
Much more like Game Freak just isn't very good at the technical side of this stuff.
Oh, that's absolutely the truth. Yeah, I mean, we just played Bayonetta 3, gorgeous game running on Switch.
But again, not open world. But you compare this to something like Breath of the Wild or Xenoblade Chronicles, and it's just like, well, this
or even Arceus.
I don't see why this is so rough.
I don't either. There's no excuse for it. It's Game Freak. They're just not skilled in that area, and I don't know why Nintendo didn't give more support to them while they built this game to help with this,
or just be a little stricter about it, because this thing had a memory leak where if you left it on too long, the textures went away.
Yeah,
you had to keep restarting the
there's
app.
So much bad stuff in this, Matt. So there's this weird whip camera that happens when you're going into battles where it'll whip from you to the other trainer that you're fighting against, where it should cut, it just whips across the scene over and then sometimes it'll clip and you'll be under the ground. It's insane, the stuff that happens in this game.
It has a technical roughness that I just do not associate with Nintendo.
No.
And I know that this isn't Nintendo, but it is. Most people think of this as a Nintendo franchise. Yep. So there were things where I turned around and decided to go back through another door that I just come through, and the camera clipped through the door that didn't exist and ended up in limbo for a second. I'm just I don't think I've ever seen that in a Nintendo game before.
Yeah. It's bizarre.
It's weird.
It is weird. I've not seen a first-party Nintendo game, and I do.
Maybe you need to give these guys a year off or something, because
well, they put it. I mean, you got to remember, Arceus just came out earlier this year. Did we need 2 huge Pokemon games in 1 year? No, Probably not.
That's not the same team, obviously.
Right.
But
I'm just saying,
cranking the mainline series out every 2 years seems to be having wearing things a little thin here.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
The 2 controller thing is very funny too.
Yeah, how you can plug in 2 Joy-Con and then run at hyperspeed, which people will do because the movement speed in this is so slow. Even once you have the mount, it is so slow. And the mount's all awkward. The mount can jump, but the jump is the most unreliable.
None of it feels good.
You're right. None of it feels.
Look at everybody running at 3 frames a second here. It's.
Oh, if you look in the background of the characters, the NPCs, they're literally it may be 3 frames per second.
Yeah, I hope everybody who had problems with Sonic Frontiers feels a lot better about the drawing on that game now, because oh boy. Yep. Some of the elements from more recent Pokemon games that have made their way into this, Terra Raids, you can find these crystalline things jutting up from the ground, and that's where the online play for this comes into play. You can basically at that point connect to the internet and then join with people in a raid to fight the gigantic Terra Pokemon and hope that you catch them and can add them to your party. As we've talked about, you get a legendary Pokemon, which ends up being your mount. The mount ultimately ends up evolving. At first, it can just cruise around and jump, but eventually it gets the ability to go across water. It can glide down from cliffs, a la Breath of the Wild, and eventually it can climb rock faces as well, climb up cliffs. I mentioned the shops. There's only a couple different kinds, and they repeat inside each town. There's crafting in this game. So there's materials to gather out in the open world, and then you go to the Pokemon Center, and there's a little TM shop there at the Pokemon Center where you can craft brand new TMs, or you can craft duplicate TMs. So if you give one to your Pokemon, you don't have to find another one now, and I think that's probably a good thing. Hard to find an RPG, especially an open world RPG these days, that doesn't have some form of crafting.
And then the school stuff, and you're right, that's probably the closest thing to a real plot in this game is all the stuff that happens around the school, because you can get to know the teachers and some of the administrators at the school. You go and you take classes, and then the classes will actually buff you up. And I think when you start, there's like 4 different classes. Is that right?
It's like biology. I think there's 3.
Math. Yeah, there's 3, I think. What's the third one?
Biology, math, and
I can't remember.
I don't know.
But at the start, you can go through 2 different levels of those. So there's actually 6 classes that you can go through right away. And they help buff you out even further. But the plot, there's still not like a big plot of intrigue. Like, this girl is the closest thing that I've found. She's like some superstar Pokemon trainer or something. Like, I'm guessing eventually she becomes a bigger part of the plot. I don't know. I'm pretty far into the game, and really finding a plot thread to kind of grab onto and hold onto is difficult. But there's no denying that they're trying to go the Harry Potter route with this game, where it's you and a bunch of kids at a school for exceptional Pokemon trainers, or blah,
Persona.
blah, blah. What'd you say?
Or Persona.
Or, yeah.
There's some Persona.
That's true, yeah. Actually, you're right. It probably is closer to Persona, in the way it's handled and things like that. As we mentioned earlier, there's kind of the 3 different tracks. There's Victory Road, Starfall Street, and the Path of Legends tracks, and you're free to move between them as you want. And you can tackle those in any order that you want. The game, I would argue that the game gives an illusion of choice, but there's not enough scaling to actually make it happen, because the game lets you go wherever you want. A lot like Breath of the Wild, you can conceivably, once they set you off into the open world, go straight to the final gym and fight the fight. Now, you'll never win because your Pokemon are too low leveled, but you can go there and you can try to fight the final gym leader if you want to. But you really can't.
Twitch people will do that.
Somebody will try.
And they will win.
You think?
People win. People won these games with level 1 Pokemon the whole time.
How do they do that?
I don't know. I don't pay attention.
Seriously, how do you do that? Without cheating.
Items, glitches, whatever.
Weird. Well, so they give you the illusion that you can go out and do whatever you want, go wherever you want, fight any gym. You can't. You'll get to areas where the Pokemon will just wipe your ass out with one attack, and that's not really like going wherever you want and doing whatever you want. In fact, I found the more I've adventured around, the more frustrating the game became, because I ended up getting mixed into these areas where I had no business being there yet. Some people, again, may like that. I found it to be annoying. I mean,
that's how open world games should be.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's a little bit of the Dark Souls thing.
Yeah.
But Dark Souls does a better job of warning you. Again, there's no way to tell you, like, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here.
Well, also, Dark Souls, because it's an action RPG, you stand a chance. Like, if you're good enough, you can do that. That's not really true of a turn-based
No, it's
RPG.
number crunching. And no matter how good you are, that's why I wondered how people do it. Like, how do you actually beat, like, a crazy powerful gym leader with level 1 Pokemon? Like, mathematically, I wonder how that's even possible. And if there's a way to do it in this game, I definitely have not discovered it. So, I talked about the gym leaders and the gym battles, how they're different and a lot easier now, and not like an epic thing like they used to be. And you don't get the sense of accomplishment like you used to either after you fought your way all the way through a gym, because you're just taking on the leader. The Pokédex is kind of interesting how they designed it. It's like a bookshelf, and each Pokemon is a book.
Yeah, I kind of like how that works.
I like it too. The other thing I like about it the most, though, is it actually, if you start digging into it, it will tell you where to go to capture the Pokemon that you're missing. If you start looking at it, and you look, it'll have like their silhouette or whatever, but it'll give you like the general. It won't tell you exactly where they are, but it'll tell you the general region of where you can find the missing Pokemon. And all that does really is just save you a Google search. But hey, if a game's going to keep me from having to go on Google and look for something that's annoying, I'm all for it. So it's more of a quality of life improvement, which I'm here for. And we've talked about the Terra type battle mechanic. You activate it with the Terra Orb. That creates the crystalline, the terrestrialized version of your Pokemon. It adds more power to certain moves. And again, you get a new type, which adds a lot of strategy and flexibility in how you handle each battle. I should also mention that once your health is chipped down, you lose like the crystal coating on your Pokemon. And likewise, if you're battling against a terrestrialized Pokemon, once you get their health down to a certain level, the crystal breaks off, and then they lose that extra type that they were using before, and they lose the buffs. So, again, rival trainers also use the terrestrialized Pokemon. So again, it adds a
Here's
different...
your fly through. This is like, oh,
Yeah.
not quite the effect they were.
Well, my guess is that this was all pre-recorded because it doesn't stutter.
Yeah, but even also that windmill swings the wrong way.
Really?
When it goes past, because it goes up high, and presumably the air would pull it with it, but it spins the other way. It's very weird choice.
I remember when I was a kid, like I took a test to be in the gifted program, and all the questions were stuff like that. Like they'd show a windmill like spinning, and they'd show the wind. You're like, oh wait, that's going the wrong direction. Like I remember there was one where they showed like a picture of a person standing there, and it was a sunny day, and the shadow was like on the wrong side of the person. Like I remember that was the kind of test that they gave you for the gifted program back in the day. I don't even know if that still exists anymore. Honestly, probably not.
They don't call it that anymore.
Wonder what they do call it. Something way more PC, I'm guessing.
More like accelerated or thing.
Yeah. And I guess really what I would say from my perspective, Arceus is the vastly superior game. To me, Arceus way better than this game in almost every way. Like the baby steps that this game takes towards being Arceus are the best changes to this game. And I do like how it does incorporate some of the Let's Go stuff into it, which also had some quality of life improvements. Story was better in Arceus. The updated battle system better in Arceus. Capturing Pokemon better in Arceus. Technically better in Arceus. Graphics, sound. I can't think of a single thing that this game does better than Arceus. Even the mounts. Remember how you could just mount like 5 or 6 different creatures in Arceus? Handle better there than it is here.
I do think this world is more interesting.
Yeah.
I think the setting is more interesting here. They don't really do anything with it. But like Arceus's setting got boring for me after a while because it was just the same thing over and over again. If this was a more technically competent game with an actual story and more, I think this would be a more interesting place to have it. But like
Arceus does something else too so this game has a bunch of different towns that you find but they're all the same and they have the same crap in them. What Arceus does is there's just one town that you always return to, and it has everything you need. So I don't know. It's like a less is more approach.
I prefer this model.
Yeah,
I want more towns, even if they're just copy and paste, whatever. Like I want more landmark locations. That's classic JRPG.
Yeah,
like, the hub world thing wears thin for me pretty quick.
Yeah,
I get real tired of going back to the same place over and over again.
Yeah, the other thing too is that one thing I liked about Arceus was being able to capture Pokemon without having to go into the battle interface. In this, you can't do that. You have to go into the battles, into the interface to capture the Pokemon.
Yeah. I think that will always be true of the mainline games.
Why?
Because that's how Pokemon works. That's you got a battle to capture, and that's one of the things that differentiates Pokemon Legends.
Yeah.
I think Legends will continue to be a more action-oriented take on the material, and this will continue to be that.
Yeah. Vincent is asking which is better, this or Sword and Shield?
I mean, Sword and Shield is definitely a more technically sound.
The craftsmanship in Sword and Shield, way better than this game.
I think this one is probably more ambitious in terms of what it's trying to change, but I would argue that unless this thing gets patched up into something a lot more concrete, that ambition just kind of makes it feel like you're standing on sand. It's like there's a lot of cool ways they're trying to push this forward for a mainline Pokemon game, but most of it doesn't get there because it doesn't feel finished. Yeah,
I think Sword and Shield, as far as craftsmanship is concerned, vastly superior to this game, but it doesn't have a lot of the changes and tweaks there.
Like this is some Digimon ass shit. Like I'm not into this.
Yeah. It's again, they're slow AF and awkward to control. Like I don't know. What about the starter Pokemon, Matt? What did you think of the starters?
Not much.
Yeah,
I picked the cat.
So did I. The green cat.
Yeah, the other ones just kind of look dumb.
He evolves pretty quickly. The green cat does. But the problem for me is, and I guess you haven't made it there yet, the first gym leader is like the worst type that you can fight.
That's fire.
It's bug.
Oh yeah, bugs like plants.
So I had to go and grind to beat the first gym leader. I had to go out in the open world and fight a bunch of wild Pokemon.
I mean, as I recall, that's pretty true of usually if you pick the grass.
Yeah,
Pokemon.
You're screwed at the first gym leader. Mm-hmm. So I had to grind to beat the first gym leader, which is a little weird. I mean,
you pick what's his name? Bulbasaur. You're gonna have to do that in the first game.
That's true. So. Yeah. Yep. But I don't know. I didn't think the 3 starters were that bad. Like, the one I almost chose was...
I mean, they seem like fine...
Was the crocodile,
fighters,
the fire-breathing crocodile.
I just think they look stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the cat, okay, because it's just a cat.
Yeah.
It's a cat made out of leaves, fine.
Yep. But then eventually, it turns into an anamorphic cat. When it evolves...
The evolved ones, again, it's just... They're really wandering
upright.
off... They're wandering off... They've been wandering off into Digimon territory the last couple of games, and I'm not... Yeah. They don't look like animals anymore. Yeah. You know, they look like Power Rangers.
Anamorphic...
Yeah.
Like, whatevers. Yeah. And the first evolution for our cat is turning it into like an upright standing humanoid kind of.
Which is kind of, you know, that the starters have done that for a long time.
Yeah.
First I remember that, I can't remember, was it Diamond and Pearl with a snake you could pick?
Yeah, I think it was.
And like the first evolution kind of makes it like a sexy snake.
Oh, right.
It's like, what are you doing?
I forgot about that.
Very odd choices here.
I like the crocodile and I like the cat. And I like the name Quaxley, the duck, which is the other starter. Do you feel this way when you hear Quaxley? Do you think of Adam Sessler?
A little bit, yeah.
It's just the word. Like, I don't know why it is, but yeah, that's a cute name.
This puppy's made of bread. I don't understand what is happening at this point. Like, you're out of ideas, guys.
Yeah. I mean, there are over 1,000 Pokemon now, Matt. Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, it's got to be almost impossible at this point to create a new Pokemon. It's got to be so hard. Mm-hmm. Like, what have they not done so far?
I mean, nothing. Clear. I mean, they've done a sentient trash bag. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
Might be time to just admit we've seen pretty much all the Pokemon in the world and add like a few legendaries and rare ones in each game and just like focus on making the game good.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Like, in the real world, we're not finding a lot of new creatures anymore. Like,
I mean, we are, but they're all like beetles,
right?
Yeah, like it's
some weird like hybrid.
There's not a lot
insect.
of new gazelles. No, out there. It's like, we've probably found all the lions.
Yeah,
You're down to much less exciting things, unless you want to do a Pokemon that takes place entirely in the deep sea. Just nothing but fish Pokemon.
Yeah. Let's see if you guys have any questions about this. People keep asking favorite new Pokemon, but I think we kind of answered that already. Doesn't look like
also
it.
Like, man, I don't even know what the new ones are for the most part.
It's hard because how do you remember 1,000 of them?
Unless they were promoted in the marketing materials. I know the bread dog is new, but a lot of it I'm just like, I don't know.
I think I came across like a donkey one that was new.
Anything from other than the starters, like anything that like was introduced in the last like 3 games, I'm not gonna remember that's been around for 2 games. Right?
Yeah.
I don't keep track of this shit anymore. As soon as I get in there, I go the most exciting thing that happened early on was a Psyduck. I know you. Like,
now I will say this: like the terastallized mechanic, I do wonder if it will become a part of competitive Pokemon. Like we always get like changes and tweaks to Pokemon with the mainline games, and 9 times out of 10 they never make it into the meta for competitive Pokemon play. But I do think that terastallizing Pokemon might actually break through and become a part of the competitive scene, which doesn't happen that often in Pokemon. I do think the crowning achievement of this entry will be the terastallizing stuff. But it may not break through either. So we're still competitively, are they still playing like Red and Blue basically? With all the different Pokemon?
I'm sure there are leagues where you can just play the original. Yeah.
The OGs. Yeah. But I guess I would say, like, I do not recommend buying this at full price. The game is long. I'll say that. Like, I've already spent a lot of time with it, and I'm nowhere near finishing. So in that way, it is like a lot of the other Pokemon games. Like, you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. But I would say this. Like, if you haven't bought Arceus because you were waiting for this, and you're like, nope, I'm going to pass on this offshoot. I want to go for the mainline Pokemon game. In my opinion, go buy Arceus. I just think it's the vastly superior game on a number of levels. And I also think if you reward Game Freak by buying more of this than Arceus, you're going to encourage Game Freak to keep doing what it is doing. And that, in my opinion, is not good enough. It needs to be better. This is one of the biggest franchises in the world.
It is the biggest IP in the world.
And this is the type of game that we're forced to play. That's not good enough. It's just not.
Especially when you look at the kind of the Pokemon clones that are starting to pop up, especially from like South Korea, and you're just like, this is
actually better.
This would have been like a pretty solid Wii game.
Yeah.
You know, like this is about where I feel like this should have been.
It looks like a GameCube game.
Yeah, in places.
Running in 1080p.
Like I feel like this is where the franchise should have been in like the late 2000s.
Yeah, I agree.
The late aughts.
If it were keeping up with everyone else.
Keeping up with the rest of the industry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you recommend people buy it, Matt?
No, and I wouldn't go so far as to say go get Arceus instead, because I wasn't super thrilled by that game either. I honestly feel like both of these games are baby steps. I feel like both of these games are like half measures to get to whatever they have in their heads of what Pokemon should end up becoming. I think if you're going to skip a generation of Pokemon, I think we're here.
This is the one.
I think you're here. Like, wait for whatever they do on the next system. Yeah. Because I think whatever they do on the next system, assuming they can get their technical act together, I bet that'll be pretty darn good.
And like, to be fair,
there's a lot of good ideas in here. They just don't. None of it gels.
It's not executed well. And to be fair, Sword and Shield's a great game, and it's out there, and you can keep playing that, or you can go. It's really long. If you haven't finished it or whatever, go back and finish that. I really struggle to tell someone to spend $50-$60 on this game. It's just the craftsmanship just isn't there. It's not worthy of full price. It's just not.
Yeah, and honestly, you don't get to say that about a Pokemon mainline game very often.
No. Since they left the comfy confines of handhelds, they haven't quite towed the line. They haven't been able to.
Yeah, well, now that you don't have the excuse of just like, well, it's all the DS can really do.
Right? Yeah. They're working on the 3DS. That's all you can get out of that thing. Now you're starting to see that maybe that wasn't the problem all along. So I don't know. Hopefully Nintendo helps them a little bit more in the next game.
Yeah, it's so weird that like Nintendo has that whole thing about like. They just can't make a sequel that isn't like messing with the formula and adds dumb things you don't want, or like like they won't even greenlight a sequel if it's not like got some new gimmick. Yeah. And Pokemon has just grinded and grinded and grinded the same thing out all these years. Yep. And I don't know, the quality control just they need to have a little come to Jesus on that, I think.
The problem is they don't have as much control as I think a lot of people think that it does, because it's like, we're going to publish the game, but ultimately Game Freak is its own company. Yeah, Pokemon Company is its own company.
Yeah, but they've also got their license with them, and I can't see them going anywhere else. And like Nintendo, there's the distinction between the Pokemon Company and Nintendo is pretty much non-existent outside of hardcore Nintendo fan circles. Most people do not know that.
Oh no, of course they just think it's a Nintendo
can very much make the case to them that's like, hey, this is our rep you're messing with here. Yeah, and we need to talk about what these games need to become and what someone needs to be able to depend on it being when they buy it on launch day. Yeah. And I can, Nintendo is definitely bold enough to have that conversation, I think. I don't know. Like, it's so weird to see things like, what Monolith puts out versus what this looks like.
I know.
And it's like,
it's crazy.
I know, like on Sonic, I was kind of like, look, they look like what they look like. Those characters are what they look like. It's their design. They're not. It's not a bad graphical thing on Sonic. It's just Sonic is basically a flat shaded cartoon character. He's only got texture on his gloves and his shoes. Yeah. But this is not an art style choice. This is like, this doesn't work.
It just can't run.
It's not. Yeah. It's bizarre.
They probably should have cut down a lot of the grass in the game. I think that's what's destroying it.
I think a lot of ground clutter is causing a problem there for sure.
But it would look so bad without it.
Yeah, like there's not much else you can do. Like,
so bad.
Like it feels like maybe you should have just churned another standard issue one out before you tried to get ambitious about it, because it feels like when you probably started this project, it feels like the beginning of this project was like the Breath of the Wild of Pokemon. Yeah, and. Notwithstanding all the comparisons, Arceus got to that because of that trailer. But it's like I can see them sort of originally starting with the idea of like, oh, this is where we're really going to break this thing out into what Breath of the Wild became for Zelda, and it just didn't get there. Yeah, and maybe they need more of more of a hardware power overhead in a way that like the Zelda team doesn't. But
they need someone to just give them an engine to build the game on.
I guess
because it definitely cannot build its own. adequately. It's a disappointment. Let's check in with you guys before we move on to the next game. See what you guys are saying. One Supermaster Gamer, thank you for Twitch Prime. Contano, thank you. Shane A28, thank you for Twitch Prime. Let's see. Commander Fett, thank you. Minority Games, thank you. Mr. 60, thank you. Some people showing up late. Emperor Dread, thanks. Time Zinni, thank you. A lot of people showing up late. Vincent says, couldn't you just catch whatever the flying Pokemon is? I'm not sure what that's in reference to, honestly. Get Up Kid 1284, thank you for Twitch Prime.
Yeah, I think he means for the bug gym.
Oh, the bug gym.
Bug types are weak to flying, so you can just go get a bird.
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing.
Yeah.
I went and got a bird, and then my bird ended up getting Ember. And that was it. I just literally used Ember on every single one of their Pokemon and just wiped them out. El Guapo 3385, where can Pokemon go from here? I think it blends the best features from Arceus and this, and gets a new engine, and that's where I think it goes from here. I don't think they will go back to the linear form of Pokemon. They could be like, oh crap, we screwed this all up. Let's just go back and make things the way we used to. But I don't think that'll happen.
I don't think that's...
I don't think Nintendo will allow that to happen.
Yeah, I don't think Nintendo would be behind that.
Yeah.
You got to keep going forward and refining what's here.
Yeah. Kevin,
I don't expect them to go ever full real time as what Arceus does. But like, if this is what you're after, they'd have to do something.
Yep. Best new feature, Kevin Roth. I think I said that already. Was the terastallizing stuff. People are saying that Eric Cartmenez, every new gimmick changes competitive Pokemon. It doesn't, though. They don't incorporate every single tweak that they make to Pokemon into the competitive scene. That's just not true.
I don't pay attention to the competitive scene, so I don't know.
Barry Lemex, I didn't know competitive Pokemon was a thing. Oh, it's gigantic.
Competitive everything is a thing.
Yeah. Yep.
There's competitive paper plane folding. Like, human beings will compete over anything.
Yep. McWomble, thank you for Twitch Prime. Hope you're doing good, man. Getting ready for the holidays. And I think that's it. So that is 2 thumbs down from GameFace for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. It's not very often a Nintendo first-party game gets 2 thumbs down from us. But this is worthy of that. Like, it earned it.
Yeah, it's not amazing.
It's not. It leaves a lot to be desired.
There's a good Pokemon entry in there, but it's not
It's not there. It's not. So there you go. That's Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Like, unlike Gotham Knights, I understand what all these choices were.
Right.
But they just didn't get them there.
Yeah, they just don't work.
It feels 6 months too early. It feels like an unfinished game.
Maybe more than 6 months, honestly. I mean, they need to build a real engine that'll run well on Switch, but they don't have to worry about it now because the next one, presumably, will be on Nintendo's next hardware.
Yeah. Regal Vent makes a good point. The music's good. Like, I like the music. There's more music in this that I find memorable than like the last 6 Pokemon games that I've played. Like, I like a lot of the music.
It never struck me.
It constantly struck me.
Really? I never even noticed it.
I thought the music was very good, and I thought the blending and the changing of the arrangements to fit what was happening on the screen was actually very good.
Huh.
The music is the one thing that I will praise about this game.
I never really struck me. So
yeah, I thought it was good.
Still not reason enough to spend $60.
The music department was working harder than the others.
Well, that's easy. That's not dependent upon a lot of technical know-how.
I know.
It's like either you can make music or you can't.
Go talk to that Doom guy about that.
That's true. That's a good point. Okay, let's move along. We're going to talk next about Call of Duty Warzone 2.0.
Well, "we" is a strong word for that.
I'm going to talk, well, maybe Matt asked me a question or two about Call of Duty Warzone 2.0. We've talked about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 the last couple episodes. That's out there. We talked about the campaign and the multiplayer on the last episode, but Warzone 2.0 is its own beast. It is completely free to play. Anybody can go and download it, and it did launch like a couple weeks after the main suite of content for Modern Warfare 2. Warzone 2, its big new feature is called the DMZ. And I guess the best way I can describe the DMZ is it reminds me a lot of playing cooperatively in The Division in the Dark Zone. So you and 2 partners spawn in the same map that you play the Battle Royale mode for Warzone. And there are objectives strewn throughout the map that you need to complete. And it's really more like a cooperative single-player campaign more than anything. Now, there are other humans out in the map. I only honestly came into contact with them at the very end of every match. And the way it works is you go out into the map, and you have like a 25-minute limit. You try to accomplish as many objectives as you can. A lot of them are very simple. It's like, hey, find this SAM turret and activate it and fire it off. Or, hey, here's 3 safes that you need to find them and then blast them open and get the stuff out of the inside of it. Yeah, killed right away.
I was more laughing at the very fast caterpillar crawl with one leg. That's a very fun.
Well, I just got revived, thank God. So the objectives are pretty simple. They're not like what you get in a typical Call of Duty campaign or anything like that. They're very MMO-ish. Like, you go to this area, you activate this thing, they send some enemies at you, you defend the thing while you wait for the little timer to click down, and then after you've played for 25 minutes and you've done what you can do, then you have to extract. And this is where the Division stuff comes in, like extracting out of the Dark Zone. Now, it's not as high event as the Dark Zone is, where like every human player is alerted and they all come and they try to kill you and they try to take your loot. Now, other human characters are alerted, so when you go to the extraction zone to try to get out with your stuff, there are going to be humans there, and it is hard. This whole mode is hard as balls. It is way too hard. Matt, I've only ever extracted once with my stuff. Ever.
Balls aren't that hard.
I know. I don't know where that saying comes from. Yeah, I don't know where it comes from, but I say it all the time. I always say hot as balls, too, which maybe is more appropriate.
Yeah, that works more.
I've only made it out one time with my stuff, and this is important because the way the weapons work in the DMZ mode is there's 2 different classifications of weapons. There's one weapon that once you have it every time you load out. And there are other weapons that you get only because you've managed to leave with the weapons. And the other important delineation between the 2 weapon types is the permanent weapons are the only ones that you can actually modify. The other ones, however you find them, is how you get them. So there's an element of this game in finding good weapons and other loot, and then holding on to them if you want to have them in perpetuity to use in future runs in the game. So there's some strategy in what weapon you ultimately end up with and you get extracted with, because then that weapon becomes usable for play in future runs. Conversely, if you get killed and you don't extract any weapons, there are cases where you can spawn into the DMZ zone with no weapons at all. Now, certain stuff you can always equip, no matter what. Like, you can always equip, like, your tactical, so, like, your flash grenades and stuff like that. You can always spawn with your lethal, so, you know, your claymores, your grenades, stuff like that. You can always spawn with those. And then, like, your special equipment. Like, most of the time I end up spawning with, like, a drone that I can send out to scout out the areas or whatever. So that stuff is always there. It's the weapons part where you have to really pay attention to what you're using and what you're extracting with so that you can end up using that stuff later on. The AI in this game, like I said, I hardly ever came across other human players playing this. It was just the enemy AI. And you have to rely on your teammates being so smart in this, because all it takes is one person firing a gun without a silencer on it, and next thing you know, the AI enemies are just flooding out of the buildings and you're dead. So you really you do rely big time in this game on your teammates. And if you have like a douchebag teammate who just runs around firing his gun, you have no chance.
What's hitting you half the time in this?
So this right now, I am in a gas cloud. And because I did not have a gas mask to equip before I went on this run, I am constantly dying when I'm in the gas cloud.
That is a tough man.
Well, that guy right there is like one of the big like bosses that if you kill that guy, that's accomplishing one of the missions in your run. And he just happened to show up at the worst possible time on this run and just showed up on the doorstep as I was just getting revived. So there's a lot of like risk and reward in Warzone 2.0, the DMZ mode. I guess my biggest question I have with it is like, what's the objective?
That animation cracks me up. I don't.
I guess my big question
dumb.
is, what is the objective in this? There's no overarching plot that you're trying to accomplish. There's no...
I mean, that's my question about all multiplayer modes. So.
Yeah. Well, competitive modes I get, because you're competing against other people. This, though, it's like, I really struggle to understand what the draw is of playing this over and over, other than the fact that all the weapons and the equipment in this game are tied into each other. So... if I've unlocked stuff playing Team Deathmatch or any of the other multiplayer modes, the competitive modes, then those guns are available for the one class of guns in the DMZ zone. So there is some crossover. Like, conceivably, you can unlock stuff in this that you can use in the rest of the game. In fact, one of the big arguments that people have against this is that there's an assault rifle that you can only unlock in the DMZ zone that is like... just annihilates people. It is like way OP, and people are like, okay, Activision is using this gun to force people to go and play this mode because they want to get the gun. And they're probably right. They're probably doing that to force people to play the DMZ mode to get the gun that they can then go use in competitive multiplayer.
Incentivizing.
Right. Yeah. It's the old Riot strategy where you release a new champ. He's OP for a while. People pay for him. You're manipulating people with content, essentially, is what it comes down to. But anyway, people are very skeptical that gun is locked away in this mode on purpose, and people are pretty pissed off about it. Like I said, if you die, you lose everything, and these are big commitments. Like, the max the match can last is 25 minutes. I don't think I've played one where it lasted less than 15, though, before someone does something stupid and you all die. So it's like a big commitment to just die and then lose everything. And then it actually, Matt, de-incentivizes you to go on the next run because you may not have anything to go on the next run now except for that one weapon that you have that is always there no matter what. So I'm not sure what the strategy, the psychology is behind this, to be honest. Because it feels like when you fail, it's like a self-repeating cycle of failure. Because it makes it harder to win every time you fail. And I just don't know that that's ever the right approach to take with a video game. Obviously...
So does the stuff you keep not carry over to another game you would play of this mode?
No, only the weapons that you've unlocked permanently in this. Mm. And they're very few and far between. So your loadout is a big deal. It's also easy to not even, like, if you're used to just playing typical multiplayer in this, it's very easy the first couple times you play to not even select your loadout, because for whatever stupid reason, the loadout screen for this is completely different from the loadout screen in the rest of the game. And again, no idea why they would do that. Because when you see that interface, you're like, oh, that's right. I need to set up my loadout. I need to make sure I have all the guns that I need. I need to make sure I've set... If you don't have that mental jogger, it takes a long time of playing this. At least for me it did, before I always easily remembered that I needed to set my loadout before I went out on each run. Yeah, so there's the two types of weapons. One is called the insured type. Insured weapons are the ones that you do not lose on death, but they're on a cooldown. So there are some times where even those weapons that you're guaranteed to have, you don't have them. And this, what you're seeing right now, the B-roll, is us trying to extract. So we got to the extraction zone. There's a helicopter waiting for us, and it's just loaded with real human players, and they just wiped us out because they get an alert. When the helicopter shows up, all the other human players get an alert saying, oh, someone's trying to leave with all the stuff.
So the other players are doing the same thing you are, just elsewhere on the map?
Right. Yep.
But if you extract without them, do they lose everything?
Your teammates, you can't extract without your teammates.
Right, but if your team extracts, do the other human players lose?
No, They're playing their own game too. Okay. And so we would get alerted. So
they only do that to be dicks.
Pretty much. Okay. Or no, to get the stuff.
To get the stuff you have.
Because if they get your stuff and then they extract, they get to keep that stuff. So again, it's kind of like the Dark Zone.
Yeah.
It's very similar, the aesthetics and the ideals behind it.
Except you don't get to go into another larger game and use those things you got out of the Dark Zone. You're just playing this again.
Right. Now, some of the weapons, like the ones that are a part of that one classification, the insured types, when you do get those will be available in other modes in the game. But the vast majority of them are not. And again, they're on a cooldown. So if you can't choose it every single time you go out on a deployment.
So it sounds like the reason to play this would be because it's fun, but it doesn't sound like it's a lot of fun.
It would be fun if I had friends to play with. That was what my final conclusion on this is going to be, is that if you have a good group of friends, if you can find 2 friends to play with you, it's a lot of fun. Even when I found, like, a team of 3, one other guy who was into it, who actually used his microphone and was willing to, like, work together on stuff, even just having 2 out of 3 made a huge difference. Now, inevitably, that third guy ran away and did something stupid, and all hell broke loose, and we all died. But I could see the glimpses of what it would be like to play with 2 friends. And I do think you would have fun playing this if it were 2 friends that you could rely on that had mics and you actually communicate with each other. But playing with norms and just randoms that you get matchmaked with, it was not fun. I didn't have any fun with it at all, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's supposed to be the hot new feature in the game. So overall, I was pretty disappointed in the DMZ mode.
Whoops.
What happened?
You thought you could jump off that and you couldn't.
Oh, yeah. It's hard to tell sometimes. Well, so now we're starting to get into the Battle Royale stuff. Actually, the B-roll is timing out perfectly. So let's talk Battle Royale, which is what Warzone built its name on. You can play solo, duos, triples, quads, pretty much any amount of players that you want. And the best thing about it is it's Call of Duty Warzone. So there are already, I think there's 25 million people playing this already, Matt.
So not a lot of waiting.
No. I mean, no matter which one you choose, how many people you want to team up with to play, you get a match like right away. And there's like 150 people in each map. It's insane. Like you'll see when people start dumping out of the plane here, it just never stops. It's just this never-ending stream of people jumping out. Now, one thing I will say is, again, most people do not use mics in this game. So coordinating jumping out of the plane with your teammates is a pain in the ass. You have to do what I did and spin the camera around so you see them actually jump out of the plane, and then you can jump out yourself. Now, I'll say this too. Even if you kind of miss them jumping out of the plane, you have so much distance that you can cover with the parachute that you can catch up to them. Like, they jumped out before me, but here I am landing on the train with them anyway. So there's like a lot of leeway as far as like getting out of the plane and getting, linking back up with your squad mates. But it is hard to tell when they're leaving if people aren't using their mics and they're not like, okay, let's get out now. And hardly anyone uses their mics. And that is both a blessing and a curse. Again, your mileage will vary with that. But Matt, here's the crazy part. Despite all those people that you saw falling out of that plane, there is still way too much downtime and dead time in this. There's just, the map is just too big. You'd have to have 500 or 600 people in these matches for there to be action all the time. There's like 150 or whatever. So there's a lot of times where I'll land and I'll just go poke around and find my weapons, and then like the circle will close, and like sometimes it takes like the third wave of the circle closing before you ever really get into any conflict. I don't know. I do not really understand the allure of Battle Royale. Again, like in this, I've just found that if you just go hide for 10 minutes, you can finish in like the top 50 guys, or you can go out guns blazing and finish like 80th or 120th or whatever. I'm sure there are people who are really good at this. We'll say I'm crazy, but for the average player, like, just go hide, find a good weapon, get your stuff, get the gear that you want, and then hide. And then let everybody kill each other, and then pop out and be like, hey! And then do your best to try to finish the game. Like, my third time through this, I finished like 18th or something. Like, and there are people who play this, man. You can tell by their loadouts. Because this also is a thing where your loadouts are kind of limited. Because a lot of times you fall out of the sky, you have nothing. You have to build your loadouts or whatever. But a lot of people know already where they can go to get the good weapons. And so as soon as they land, they're loaded for bear, and you're walking around with a pistol still. So, there's an advantage to playing this a lot and getting better at it. But honestly, like, I don't know if there's a better strategy than just landing on the ground, getting yourself a decent weapon, and just hiding away inside a building for a little while and letting everybody just shoot each other down, mow each other down for a while. And again, that's happened in every Battle Royale, like every one. So it's not like I'm singling out Warzone for this. It's just something that's endemic to the subgenre, the Battle Royale genre. Matt, how long has it been since you've played a Battle Royale shooter?
When did Apex Legends come out?
2018? All right.
About that long.
I don't blame you, because it's probably the best, in my opinion. But this is also really good. like it's the craftsmanship in this game is solid. Like, you would never play it and be like, oh, that's free to play. Like, a lot of games you can tell, oh, this is a free to play game. The production values in this just as high as the rest of the suite for Modern Warfare 2. Now, you can see here there's vehicles in the Battle Royale modes. They're kind of hard to find. I didn't find a lot of times, but when you do find one, it does change the game because you can travel so much more quickly. And it's just kind of fun just cruising around in one and having people like shoot at you as you drive by. There's some fun to be had in that. But overall, like, I really don't see anything that's all that different about Warzone that would make it a more popular Battle Royale than the half dozen other ones that are out there. And certainly, I found nothing in this that makes it better or more interesting than playing Apex Legends, which was built by the people who created Call of Duty originally. So I guess that may actually make some sense in the end. Swan is asking, were they shooting you as you dropping down to the match? No. So what Matt was talking about and what we were seeing beforehand, like the lobby for this, for the Battle Royale mode, is you parachuting down. It's not actually the match. You just parachute down and they can shoot you while you're falling down, but it has nothing to do with the actual match. Now, if somebody were to get on the ground before you in the normal Battle Royale mode and look up and see you coming down, yeah, they can absolutely shoot you and they can kill you before you ever hit the ground. So the idea is that you want to dive down to the ground and get close to where you want and then pull the shoot when you're a couple hundred yards off of the ground. So that you're not floating up there forever. And you can start floating down and then cut your chute and then redeploy the chute. So you can mess around with it if you want to. You're not locked in. Like, once you deploy your chute, if you cut your chute, you're not just going to fall to the ground and die. For whatever reason, they let you, like, redeploy the chute again. I don't know where it's supposed to be coming from, but I think it's the right call. And then, obviously, as you're seeing now, the Gulag, which is after you die in the Battle Royale mode, you're sent to this gulag for like a 2-on-2 pistol fight, basically. And the objective is to kill the other team, but also kill the big juggernaut that launches into the map. And if you do that, you get put back into the Battle Royale. And I think that happened for me once. So it is not easy. Because if you do kill the other two enemies, like, killing the juggernaut with a pistol is not easy at all. But it is nice that you have that option there if you want to. You can go back in and you can rejoin the match if you're good enough to kill the other team and the heavy that spawns into the Gulag map. And that's pretty much it. That's Warzone 2.0. That's all the features that are in it right now. And it is robust. For something that's free to play, you're getting the big DMZ mode. You're getting the Battle Royale stuff with every combination of players you can imagine. And the map is gigantic. Now, I will say this. It is big, but you do start to get tired of it after a little while. But it is a free to play game. Beggars can't be choosers. You know, It's pretty awesome what you're getting for free here. And I said there's already 25 million people playing this. Activision has already made $1 billion off of this game, Matt. $1 billion already in the first 10 days off a free-to-play game.
That's a lot of money.
That's insane. That's crazy. So you can see,
what are you buying in this? Just like
cosmetics and weapons and stuff like that.
All the ghillie stuff the guys in your plane had at the beginning.
Yep. And I have nothing.
Yeah, you're just a random soldier.
G.I. Joe dude, yeah. But yeah, $1 billion is made in 10 days from 25 million players.
Wow.
The PC response to this has been huge. Like, it's like the biggest Call of Duty ever on PC so far. So people are latching onto it, and they're enjoying it. I'm not one of them. I played it. I'm good. I'm going back to competitive multiplayer. But it's free. Anyone can download it. I don't remember how big the download was though, because I have like the whole package installed.
I saw it. I think it was like 100 gigs or something.
Just for the Warzone?
I saw one like something like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It was a lot. Because like I did look at it because I'm like, oh, maybe I'll try it, and I was like, no, not for that amount. The install was huge.
That's crazy. Kevin Roffa asks, how does it rank compared to other battle royales? I mean, it's up there. It's one of the highest quality battle royales on the market, but I still think Apex Legends is better. It has more style. This is obviously very militaristic, very dry.
62 gigs.
Just for the Warzone.
On Xbox for Warzone 2.0.
Okay. That's no small commitment at all. Yeah. That's big. I had no idea it was that large. Because I just kind of set it up to download and like worked the whole day and then came back to my PS5 like later in the day.
It's only
and it was
22 gigs on Steam.
It's 22 gigs on Steam?
Yeah.
That's not bad.
But on Xbox, for some reason, it's gigantic.
No clue. They haven't figured out the cracking compression yet, Matt, on Xbox for whatever reason. Swanland says Activision is terrible with compression. You're right. I mean, Call of Duty's typically, if you have the whole suite on your hard drive, they're like 100. They start at like 100 gigs. And by the time the game is done and the next one comes out, they're at like 150, 170 gigs. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. But at least now you can install and uninstall parts of it. You don't have to install the whole suite anymore. So you can just install Warzone if you want to. You can just install the multiplayer suite if you want to. You can just install the campaign if you want to. And obviously there's no zombies in this year's Call of Duty, which is out of the ordinary. Usually they've managed to shoehorn it in every single time, but not with this one. But overall, I mean, it's free. And I would say it's probably second or third best. Like, I think both this and Apex Legends have lapped kind of the genre classics like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Like, that's still janky AF.
Yeah.
And it can't hang with these big budget.
I haven't heard anyone mention PUBG in I don't know how long.
Because it's been lapped by these other games. It's just not really relevant anymore. It now is struggling trying to play catch up with these other games that came along after it. Which means that Krafton probably should just dedicate more people to working on PUBG, if you ask me. But maybe they're working on PUBG 2, and they're just like, you know what? Why bother?
Callisto Protocol.
Yeah, why or Callisto Protocol. But they're like, why bother, going back and updating this old game if we're just working on the new one anyway? So I guess overall I had fun with it, but I'm just not a Battle Royale shooter guy, Matt. I just don't really enjoy it. Like, I thought, when they started, like, with Apex Legends, when they started doing duos and being able to play with the 3-man squad and quads, I was like, oh, that may change it for me, but having to rely more on other people, like, I enjoyed playing this more by myself, just playing the solo one, where it's just you against everybody else. There's no confusion. You see somebody, you just know you need to kill them, and that's all there is to it. You have to worry about coordinating with people or them doing stupid stuff, like running out in the open when they shouldn't and alerting other players to where you are. There's just all this stuff that comes along with playing this cooperatively that I did not have as much fun with. So I would say Apex Legends won this, probably second place. And then everything else just kind of a distant third. There's nothing that really stands out from the rest of them, like PUBG for nostalgia maybe. But yeah, this genre is just...
Fortnite?
Yeah, Fortnite. I guess you're right. Yeah, I overlooked Fortnite. That's pretty terrible. That would probably be third.
To be fair, Fortnite doesn't really push the
Battle Royale
part
stuff
much anymore. Like it's more of a experience.
Yep, you're right. Yeah, with all the pop culture and all this
concerts,
special appearances,
and
it's a platform now. It's not just a game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's more of a, I don't know. I keep having feelings when Facebook puts up all the stupid metaverse shit. It feels like they're trying to catch Fortnite somehow.
Yeah. I mean, Fortnite...
Obviously, Fortnite doesn't put out its own headset or anything, but
yeah. Fortnite is still the de facto battle royale for the tweens. Mm-hmm. Like, all my nephews, they play Fortnite. They don't play Warzone. Yeah. They don't play Apex Legends. They all play Fortnite. I feel like at a certain age...
My niece doesn't, luckily.
Yeah. I feel like at a certain age, though, they start graduating to these other more serious ones. Not that Apex Legends is, like, deathly serious or anything. That's what I like about it.
But there's a thing to be said. I mean, I think part of the reason there's so much... the competition's so hot with Apex and this, and is because I think there is a competition for who gets to be the pure battle royale. Mm-hmm. Like the battle royale without all the fluff that Fortnite has added. I think there is a market for that.
Yeah.
So I can see why there's...
I mean, I can see why Warzone has 25 million people already, because it's Call of Duty battle royale. Mm-hmm. And
there's also always been people that don't want to play Fortnite because they think it looks cartoony or too kiddie or like.
It's also a third-person shooter instead of a first-person shooter.
Yeah. Although there is a third-person mode in this.
There is, yeah, to appease the people who want to play Fortnite. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, but I will say it's a high-quality product.
Third-person, I'd rather see my character, but not in a game like this.
Yeah. Well, one thing though. Playing in these games in third person, you can see around corners and stuff, and it makes a huge difference. So there is a strategic angle.
Well, that is why you have to pick. The mode has to be one or the other. It can't be, as opposed to like Battlefront 2, where you could choose.
Yeah, you can't really mix them together.
No, if you're playing in first person in Battlefront 2, you're going to die.
You have no chance.
Because everyone else can see you.
They can see you way before you see them. Yeah. But it is really high quality, like Warzone 2 is.
I guess I would maybe try like a Battle Royale Star Wars thing.
Yeah.
Or something. If the theme on a Battle Royale was interesting enough to me, I would probably try it. But I have a hard time thinking what those things that would be. My guess would Star Wars and maybe Transformers, I don't even know what. I mean, there's no way those would be good games, though.
Yeah.
You know?
The other thing that sets Warzone apart, at least a little bit, is the vehicles. Now, other Battle Royale shooters have vehicles, but in this, they're very intuitive. Like, you can jump in a chopper, and you're just flying a chopper. Like, a lot of Battle Royales, like, or even, like, Battlefield.
Battlefield's...
Dude, flying a helicopter in Battlefield.
Oh, yeah, that's always been...
Forget it. Flying jet planes. Like, in this, everything is intuitive. You get
the
in
planes
it.
are okay, but I remember even from the beginning, the helicopters in Battlefield were like, you need like a major.
It's like,
that.
why? It's so easy in other games. Why do they make it so difficult? I don't get it.
It's always so weird. It's like, why is it like that?
Yeah.
And then like they do it when they start doing campaigns, they kept the helicopter controls the same in the camp. I'm like, I don't have time to research the fucking control scheme.
I'm not trying to learn how to become a real helicopter pilot.
Yeah.
Like, in this, you jump in something, you immediately know how to use it. And that is an advantage that this has over a lot of other Battle Royales. It has vehicles, others do as well, but they're just really intuitive in this. And it's also very easy to figure out, like, how to get into them with your teammates and how to jump around from different seats in the vehicle. Like, everything is just very intuitive, and it works how you think it should work. And I think that is an advantage that this has. It has the vehicles, and people are going to be able to jump into them and know how to use them immediately. So if that's the type of player you are, or maybe you like Battlefield and you're looking for a Battle Royale to play, then this is probably what you should be playing. But a high-quality product. I really did not like the DMZ mode at all. Like,
yeah,
it just
Sneaky, I'm talking about a Star Wars game that's set in the Star Wars universe and does not involve flossing.
What?
He's saying there's already a Star Wars Battle Royale because Fortnite has Star Wars stuff in it. I'm like, no, that's not the same thing.
Yeah, there are over 30 Star Wars characters in Fortnite. Is there 30 already in there?
There's tons of
them.
Oh,
my God.
I mean, that is probably the biggest, like, you want to talk about, like, Ready Player One style stuff, like, Fortnite is there already.
Yeah.
Like, any imaginable character from almost any IP is going to be in there, and you can play them against everybody else, and, like, it's ridiculous.
Yep. But to me, Apex Legends still the champ of the Battle Royale. So if you're looking for one game to jump into...
That was definitely the one that felt the best to play in my limited
surprise from Vince Zampella, who created the modern Call of Duty. So, not a surprise. So to me, Apex Legends still won. This is a close second, though. They did a really good job on it, at least as far as the Battle Royale stuff is concerned. I'm not a fan of the DMZ stuff. You don't have to play it if you don't want to. It's free. And it is way too hard. It is hard as balls. And that's why I didn't enjoy it. Between the AI that were just crack shots... Like, you're just, like, walking along, and you're shot in the head, and you look, and there's some dude, like, 400 yards away. You're like, what? Really? You just shot me? It just got really annoying and way too difficult. And then trying to extract with your stuff, there's always, like, that's when you run into the other humans, and they're just waiting there to sabotage you. A lot of people didn't like the Dark Zone in the Division. And if you didn't like the Dark Zone in the Division, you're going to hate this for the same exact reasons. It's just brutal and not as rewarding as it should be when you do get away with your stuff. Like, I did one time manage to get in the chopper and get away with all my stuff, and it seriously, Matt, just sustained me for like 2 matches after that. And after 2 more matches, all the stuff that I had collected was gone, and I was right back where I started again. The payoff is not worth the pain, I guess is the best way that I could put it. So there you go. That's Call of Duty Warzone 2.0, free to play, and pretty much on every platform but Switch. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk next about a surprise Game of the Year candidate, Matt. Mm-hmm. Came out of nowhere. Well, it
didn't come out of nowhere. We knew it was
we knew it was coming, but we were kind of joking about it. We're like, that is Microsoft's only first-party game for the fourth quarter.
Well, I kind of thought it looked cool, and you were baffled by the fact that I thought that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the art looked cool, but the game itself I was baffled by. I'm like, what the hell is this thing? And that game is Pentiment, and it has been getting, like, 10s across the board. It is a choose-your-own adventure narrative-driven game.
By Obsidian. That's important.
By Obsidian, which is important. Creators of the Fallout franchise, some of the Fallout games. They're working on Avowed right now.
KOTOR 2, Pillars of Eternity.
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera.
They have the pedigree in a lot of ways. But this one, there's no combat in this game.
Nope.
Very little gameplay really at all. You run around.
Just a story-driven game, really.
Yeah, you just make your choices and...
Bit of a timer on it in times, but...
Yeah.
Like, there's only so many things you can do before the section of the day you're in ends.
Yeah. As we just found out with New Tales from the Borderlands, it does really feel like this genre, as far as the mechanics of it, has really become dry. because this doesn't really introduce any new mechanics. I think what makes this special is, one, the setting, because it's set, in 16th century Bavaria?
Yes.
In this little hamlet that I've never heard of in my life.
And neither have several of the people there.
Right.
Before they got there.
That's right. I forgot about that. It's an odd time period to set a video game. When you think about the average game player is the 18 to 34-year-old male, this seems like a very strange choice for a setting in a game.
The average game player is more around a 48-year-old.
They're getting older now, yeah.
Like, the average game age is basically our age as we continue to age.
Yeah.
It's always been true.
Yeah, you're kind of right, actually. We're the mean for some reason. I think at a certain point that's going to end.
We're just at the right age. Because that probably ends at some point, but basically, like, because everyone plays games after us.
Yeah.
We are the last.
Now everyone plays games.
We're the last generation with anyone who wouldn't play
games. Yeah.
Now you're weird if you don't.
No, you're right.
So, yeah. So that's
we were the weirdos before, though.
Yeah.
That's the crazy part about it.
And even the people that thought it was weird to play games all the time, a lot of those people now play games. So
yeah,
the phone really changed that.
Yep, absolutely. So this, as we said, is set during the 16th century in Europe, in Bavaria. And Europe is kind of at a crossroads. It's like religion, politics, how women are treated, everything is starting to change and evolve.
Yeah, it's the cusp of the Renaissance and the waning of the Middle Ages, sort of as they sort of are about to give way to like what will eventually a couple centuries later become the Enlightenment. Like, people are starting to read more. Yeah, literacy,
just learning how to read.
Literacy is becoming less uncommon.
And the more common it becomes, the more the tropes of religion and politics are challenged.
Yeah, and most importantly, it's right around the time that Martin Luther wrote his 95 Theses. So the idea of questioning the Catholic Church is sort of a big intellectual question now.
Yeah.
And because a lot of the action in this is set around a monastery, because your character Andreas is basically he's an artist, and he is working on his masterpiece, which used to mean basically you'd complete your master's degree and you had to do a piece that proved you were worthy of a master's degree. That was your masterpiece.
Right.
It was not the best thing you made your whole life.
Yeah.
It was the thing that made you a master of the craft. And so that's what you're working on, but you're also basically illustrating copied manuscripts at the abbey for money, because that's your job.
Because there's no Kinkos.
Yeah, because you're working in a monastery with a bunch of monks. You're not a monk, but everybody else is a monk. And you're sort of caught up in the politics of that, and like a noble visits, and he's interested in Martin Luther, other ideas, and he's a big patron of this monastery. But
he's paying one of the monks to write his manuscript or something?
Copy a manuscript, but also custom do so basically he's having a book he wants copied, but also has custom illustrations in it,
right?
As, in the illuminated manuscript, but he wants it in a certain new kind of style, and he's not happy with what's but he meets you and thinks you're interesting because you're educated the same way he is. So there's sort of a thing where early on it's like, oh, Andreas can do it, and
he has a monk working on it, and he doesn't want that monk to work on it anymore.
He doesn't like the work he's doing because he's an old monk who has an old style and stuff. Right. So he asks for you to do it, and no matter what you choose, you agree. You end up doing it.
Yeah. Which means the old monk is fine with it.
Yeah. He's your friend, but the monks that run the monastery are like not happy about it because they don't consider you one of them.
Right.
They think of you being there as a favor to you. Right. And now you're usurping
and now you're taking their work.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. And there's a lot of weird shit. There's like different relationships with all the people in the village. There's like, the people you're staying with want their rent early, and like
you have to come up with the rent somehow.
You have to find a way to do that, and like how to do that, you got to get the monk who pays you to pay you early, and to do that you got to butter him up for a certain thing. If you say the wrong thing about the thing he's interested in, he won't be as open to that. There's a lot of
then the main plot twist is the guy who is commissioning the monk to recreate the book and fires him and hires you to do it is murdered. Mm-hmm. And, of course, they think it's the old monk because he had taken him off the project and put you on the project. But the monk is like your best friend.
Yeah, and you know that
there's no way in hell that he did it. And that is what the whole game is about. Mm-hmm. It becomes a murder mystery that goes on for 25 years. 25 years this murder mystery lasts in this game.
You can't say it's not epic. Like, you follow Andreas through his whole life, basically.
And he's coping with this thing his whole life. He comes to Creed, leaves the area, and goes and has this whole other... And he still is grappling with this mystery.
And you do get to pick kind of who he is in his background, like, surprisingly
So some of the question, the Q&A you saw earlier with kind of the big Ophi dude, that's where you choose, like, who he is. Like what does he really care about, where he's from.
Like, where he visited during his education, or when during his wonder year. Like, so that determines what languages he can read and speak, and... kind of something, and then like you can choose what he majored in. So like my Andreas studied theology and occultism. So he knows everything there is to know about Catholicism and how not to be a Catholic. And so like there's things where like he'll be able to, sometimes you'll be able to read. Like he can speak. My Andreas can read and speak French, so he can read French manuscripts.
Whereas mine speaks Italian.
So you would not be able to read what that says without help. But I don't need but then like another time I ran into a thing that was in Greek and I couldn't read it.
See, my guy reads Italian and some Greek, and so that stuff my guy's able to read. Like. There's
also like a thing where you'll see how the word bubbles are working there. Like everybody's got a different, like bunch of different styles of script. And like I noticed that sometimes if you get in good enough with another character, their script style will switch to match yours.
Oh, really?
Like so, like I think it's a joke. I think it's literally a pun about being on the same page as each other.
That's funny.
Because it's being written out, and there will be spelling errors. And if you can click through it pretty fast, but if you wait a little bit on a spelling error, it'll get corrected. Like they'll erase it and like fix it. And in my head, knowing Obsidian, I'm like, there's going to be a thing at the end of the game where if you let too many typos go by without waiting for them to be corrected, you're going to get penalized for that. I know that's coming.
I mean, I'll say this: like the game, the decisions that you make, the choices that you make, have a profound impact. On what happens.
The cascade effect of the choices in this is astounding.
Like coming off of New Tales from the Borderlands, where I could not detect any of that.
No, this changes stuff both immediately and like hours later. Like it's. And you're like, oh yeah, and like like you can play this as a pretty kind of modern progressive character, or he's like, I don't believe the church stuff. Like, we should never burn a book. We should never do. You can
That'll
play it,
screw you though,
and you are not aligned with the culture of the time.
No one will talk to you.
Going to be in trouble.
They'll blow you off. They won't work with you. There's definitely big consequences for the decisions you make.
You cannot flatter a nun in the Middle Ages enough to get her to give you the book you want. It
is interesting. Like you come across a lot of women and they're like, you're not supposed to be talking to me. Like I'm not allowed to talk to men in the daylight or whatever. Like, and so you are seeing like modern society for the time evolving and changing and growing, and you're kind of caught in the middle. And as you said, you can choose. Do you want to be the progressive person who is like, yeah, this stuff that the church is saying is crazy and it's nuts that a woman can't talk to a man in daylight?
That's, of course, a good way to get hung at the time.
You pay consequences for it. In this game as well, you do. So there's your masterpiece, by the way. This is what you're working on. So there's a lot of consequence for what you do in this game. However, Matt, I will just say, like, I've found this game to be pretty boring. The setting, you really have to read the text closely.
You have to pay attention.
A lot of the names, like you have to remember like who people are, and like it felt like work playing.
There are
game.
usually like if you see something underlined or in red or whatever, and you hit it back, I think it is, and it'll give you a little dictionary entry on what it is, either a historical concept or a character in the game. So there is resources to kind of keep up with that without memorizing everything. But yeah, it is a very,
it demands a lot from the player.
And like you see down there the little thought bubble. You can go down there, and like you do have a bunch of ancient, like classical philosophers in your head who you see in dreams, and you can get like advice from Socrates if you need it and stuff. And like it'll give you ideas of like how people will. It'll give you ideas of how people will react to the choices you have available. But sometimes it's that character's. Sometimes it's the philosopher in your head's angle on what it is, and they're not always correct. So you're always like the crux of this game is understanding and interpreting points of view constantly.
This game also makes you make uncomfortable decisions. So at the end of the first act, you are forced to accuse someone of the murder, and I was like, I'm not prepared to accuse anybody of this murder. I didn't feel like I had even half of the facts that I needed to, but the game makes you do it, and that trickles down later on.
Which is a change, because most of the time when that kind of thing is presented to you before that, you have the option of staying quiet.
Right. I'm just saying nothing.
And a lot of times,
it's the
staying
best
quiet is absolutely the correct choice if you don't want to get yelled at by somebody.
Yeah, I don't know. I found this...
Because you are not in a position of power in this game.
No, you're the new guy in town.
Yeah.
For the most part, you should just keep your mouth shut and just keep your head down.
Yeah, because it's like the noble guy who gets killed thinks you're pretty cool,
right,
and appreciates what you know, and
because you're traveled and you went to college.
But the people you're working for don't give a shit.
Yeah,
they think you're basically a heretic.
Yeah,
for the most part.
A lot of times I felt like I was playing a really boring Disco Elysium.
There is some Disco Elysium. I don't think this game's boring at all. I think it's very, very good.
I have not really enjoyed playing.
I think it's very interesting, but I
can appreciate what's
history
happening.
And I like that kind of and Obsidian is very good at sort of just human interaction consequence stuff.
Yeah.
It's not as dynamic as your average, kind of walking simulator, story-driven thing, like a Tales from the Borderlands kind of thing. Obviously, it doesn't look that good. But the art style they're going for, they get a lot of expression out of it. It's a little small, like seeing the tiny faces, and they do have a lot of expression on those faces.
They do.
If you look closely enough.
I like the art style and the graphics.
Yeah.
No game looks like this.
No,
and it's hard to say that in 2022.
Yeah, at least the good reviews at least prove. I like that in the sense that it's you hear all the refrains oh, innovation, all the games are the same now, innovation. Well, at least they appreciate the innovation or the originality here, and it's not one of those well, no, not like that.
Well, also I also would say that the consequences for your decisions in this are kind of innovative. There aren't a lot of narrative-driven games that really immediately you see the results of your decisions, and it keeps piling on.
And there's a lot of stuff where it's I didn't expect that was what that would lead to. But then when you take into account the people and the characters involved, you're that does make sense that's how that would work out.
Yeah.
But there's no way to. It has so many moving parts in terms of how many people are involved and how many points of view are involved that it's very hard to have predicted that.
Yeah.
And even then, when you go, because there's a couple times when say you're talking to someone. I think the earliest example of this is the nun who controls the books.
Yeah,
lends the books out.
Yeah,
you want her to tell you something about the noble guy.
Yeah,
because she seems to know who he is, and so she makes you bring all these books back to her, and you talk about the books, and she has very strong, kind of rather puritanical opinions on these books, and you can argue with her, and you can have your own opinion. But then she'll
cut you off.
But if you go too far, she'll say, I'm not inclined to help you anymore. Then you can try to convince her to still help you, but the convincing, you get a little window, and it says, here's your likelihood of convincing her, and here's all the reasons why you got positive and negative through this whole conversation about what you said about all these things. And you're like,
you get the feedback immediately.
And then when I saw that, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to and I looked at the autosave, and it was 10 minutes earlier. So I'm like, okay, clearly it autosaved before this conversation with her. So I'm going to go back and try that again. And honestly, even knowing what it wanted me to do to butter her up or whatever, it was very hard to not go a different route with that, because this is no, I just don't
agree with that.
I don't agree with it. I can't do that.
Yeah. Look, this game is finely crafted. I talk about craftsmanship a lot here on GameFace, and the craftsmanship in this is great.
Yeah, the tree, the dialogue decision consequence tree for this game must be the size of a football field.
I can't even fathom.
It's that document must be gigantic.
Yeah.
They must have really good custom software for tracking that kind of thing.
Yeah, I just found the setting and the characters, and I just found it boring.
Yeah, if you don't find the setting or the time period or sort of the politics of the time interesting, the historical element of it interesting, it's not going to do anything to hook you.
And usually I do. I mean, for instance, I just went to Greece because I love history. When I go on vacations, I go someplace where I can learn about history. But for whatever reason, this era, this setting for this game just hasn't clicked with me. But at the same time,
it's a very depressing part of
it. Kind
history.
of is, yeah.
It's not an upper of a game.
No, it's not.
Everyone's sort of sad.
Yeah, and I felt sad playing it.
Yeah,
I was I don't want to feel this. I just. Maybe I was at the wrong place or someplace mentally, I don't know, but I did not really enjoy playing this. I can appreciate what's gone into the game, and I can say this is probably the best narrative, choice-driven game I've played in quite a while, while at the same time saying it's just not for me, really.
This is definitely the best narrative I've seen in a game since Disco Elysium.
Yeah.
If you like Disco Elysium, this has that level of complexity.
Total
and care
same vibe.
to it.
Yep. I totally get that as well.
It's not as funny.
No.
Not
There's
at
some
all.
humor in it, though.
But there's some stuff. It is.
But the thing is, if you are a member of Game Pass, this game is also free on Game Pass.
Yeah, this is a pro Game Pass install for sure.
This is what you have Game Pass for.
Also, I think this is a really nice example of like this is one of the first things that Obsidian's put out under its ownership, being owned by Microsoft, and the fact that Microsoft let this come out.
Well, reportedly, Obsidian has been pitching this for years and years and years.
But the fact that Microsoft's like, oh, yeah, do it, go for it.
That's a good sign.
That's cool. The idea that Xbox Studios is willing to let this exist alongside Avowed is a very good indicator.
I agree. So it's a very specific type of game, I think, for a very specific type of player, for a very specific time for that player as well.
Yeah, it also kept reminding me of I can never remember the title of it, but there are 2 point-and-click adventure puzzle games on Steam that I have that are based on medieval tapestries and Hieronymus Bosch stuff and things like that. And I can't remember what they're called, but it reminded me of that. It reminded me of them. It's because they use the art style, and so everybody's kind of done like a paper doll almost.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I don't remember either. Someone in chat maybe will come up with it.
No, Shaniki, it's not like Xbox doesn't have anything else released because this isn't going to move any needles.
Yeah, this is just a gift to people who have Game Pass, basically. This is not going to help its sale. This is going to be a horrible Q4 for Xbox.
It might get talked about because... it got ridiculous review scores. But I don't think anybody thought that was coming. Yeah, I don't think Microsoft was like, oh, this will get us some Game of the Year hype. It's like, no, that was not.
It's also, I don't think it wasn't made to drive subscriptions for Game Pass either.
Yeah, Four Last Things. That's the game.
Four Last
Things on Steam is
Who came up with that? Pharaoh Doll.
That was like it's like medieval tapestry point and click.
I've never even heard of it.
It's funny. It's got a little Monty Python to it.
Oh, then I probably like it.
Also, there's some funny thing, because remember, Procession of Calvary. That's the other one.
I know that game.
That was the sequel.
Oh, okay.
And this one, there's some funny. Look, if you ever actually go look at some of the illuminated manuscripts that these monks did back then, these guys were bored. There's some stuff people playing trumpets with their ass and cats chasing mice on their hind legs and we are men jousting on snails
and the art style in this game is very much in line with the stuff that the monks are carving in this game look like the art style of the game. It's they basically created the art style based upon the plates that those monks were making back then. It's again, there's no other game that really looks like it. So
it looks nice.
Yeah,
they did a good job.
It's a special game for people with a very specific taste in games. But again, if you're subscribing to Game Pass, it's there, downloaded. It's a very small download, so it's available for Xbox and PC, and it will never be available for anything else because Obsidian is owned by Microsoft. Yeah. Although Microsoft is.
Oh yeah, you never know. Microsoft could throw that on the Switch and not. That's.
Yeah, it would be a good fit on Switch.
It would fit on this. Well, actually, I wouldn't want to play that on that tiny screen, really. But
yeah, it'd be hard to read. Maybe they have to make.
There is also an option at the very beginning where if you have trouble reading all the different script fonts, you can just switch it to normal fonts.
I did that actually.
I did not. I kept the fancy fonts.
I looked at the left and I was like, oh, that's too much work. And I looked at the right. I'm like, I can read that easily. Choosing the right. But anyway, there you go. That's Pentiment. It's available for Xbox and PC. I didn't even check to see how much it costs if you want to buy it.
I don't. Neither did I. I would guess 20.
I would pay 10 for it.
20 is a good price for this. I think.
Yeah. I would pay 10. So there you go. That is Pentiment. Next up, an announcement that made me very, very excited this week, and then this morning, a little bit of water was poured on it. That is that Team Ninja announced at a convention called G-Star that it is working on reboots of both the Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive franchises. And I was like, hot damn, finally. How many times we talked about it, Matt? Well, why does Team Ninja keep launching this new IP that kind of looked like the last new IP that they launched when they have this massive franchise sitting there that they could dust off and make a great game around?
Two reasons. It's not a massive franchise because it's ancient and nobody remembers it. B, they cannot make a great Ninja Gaiden game because the people who made a great Ninja Gaiden game don't work there anymore.
That's quite possible. And maybe they are afraid.
I do not ever want to see them try to do Ninja Gaiden again.
Really?
They will never make anything as good as that original game or the sequel. Ninja Gaiden 3 sucked.
It did.
Leave it alone.
Ninja Gaiden 3 was 2012.
There is nothing
it's
about...
been 10 years since a Ninja Gaiden
Good.
game.
Let's make it 20. You're done. Not everything needs to live forever. Like, Ninja Gaiden had its day. You know, Itagaki made some good shit there. Itagaki's gone. All those people are gone. Team Ninja doesn't really make the same quality stuff anymore. Just leave it alone.
I disagree. I want more.
You want more mediocrity and garbage?
They only took one shot at it, and I look at the games that Team Ninja has made since then, and I have total faith that they can make a good Ninja Gaiden.
I don't.
I do. The combat in their games has been amazing, and that's what Ninja Gaiden is all about. The combat in
their games have been different. I don't believe they can make combat like this again. Neo is not this.
No, I agree, but I think they have good design principles in their games. I think they have good combat systems in their games. I don't think there's any reason why they couldn't make Ninja Gaiden work. So I am very, very excited by this. However, this morning, Team Ninja announces or comes out on the record and says, "Oh, whoa, slow your roll there. We just mentioned that in jest, but it's a bunch of nonsense, Matt, because there was a slide in their presentation at G-Star 2022 that had Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive in the slide, and it said right in the slide, reboots of popular series. Also, the person who was giving the presentation was the studio head, Fumihiko Yasuda. Like, nobody knows better than him what they're working on and what they're doing. So I did not believe this crap today that came out where their spokesperson was like, no, slow your roll. I absolutely do believe that another Ninja Gaiden is on the way.
That's too bad.
What'd you say?
That's too bad.
Why?
Because it's going to be a bad game.
Why do you believe that, though? I don't get it.
Because
they made one bad game 10 years ago.
Because nothing will match the original game, and it's inevitably going to be a disappointment. And it's probably going to be a Souls-like. It's probably going to have a stamina bar, and I don't care.
No, that would suck. But I don't think they already have two of those. They have another IP coming out. This might as well be frickin' Neo 3. Like, they don't need a third franchise that plays exactly like the other two. I don't think they would do that with Ninja Gaiden, man. I just don't think they would. Like, that's not what the franchise is. Like, this is what the franchise is. Like, lightning fast combat that require,
there's a bunch of stuff the franchise isn't that was in Ninja Gaiden 3.
Right.
So, like...
I agree with you. Ninja Gaiden 3 is a terrible game. Even after they kind of took it back and redid it, it was still terrible.
The people who made this series, this franchise, and this was a reboot in itself, but, like, the people who made this what it was are gone. Like, I don't see the need to revisit this. It's just going to be sad.
Well, I want it.
Reboot Dead or Alive. Reboot Dead or Alive. That's an easier thing.
Well, here's the thing, Matt. Dead or Alive, the last one came out in 2019. It hasn't even been that long. Dead or Alive 6 is only 3 years old at this point.
I forgot that even happened.
It's hard to believe.
Because it's that stupid free-to-play thing, and so like you had to buy it was like $200 to buy everything. It was I ignored that game.
Well, yeah, it ended up going free-to-play, and they just ended up making tons of money off of bikini costumes for the next, 2 years or whatever. What do you think that they need to do to Dead or Alive to make it relevant because it's not coming out for a couple years? So let's say 2025. What is going to make a fighting game relevant? Because that's what they have to do.
I think they got to look at Tekken and not make it play like Tekken, but look at what Tekken does, what Tekken presents, how Tekken presents itself, what Tekken has made people expect from a 3D fighting game, and do that basically. Like I think that's your angle.
It kind of is similar to Tekken already.
It is, but it's not similar to Tekken in terms of what the presentation and what they offer in the game. All the Tekken 7 has more modes and more. There's so much stuff to do in that game. It's not just a versus game with an online mode.
One thing that's different about Dead or Alive is that the arenas, other than gigantic boobs, is that the arenas are kind of a character on their own.
Yeah. But Tekken has done stuff like that now.
Yeah, too. They have you can bust out of sections of the levels and fight.
And unfortunately, the arena styles in Dead or Alive are one of the things that has always held it back in the competitive scene because they make it too random.
Yeah.
Like, you can lose too much health falling down a cliff in this game off of one hit, and people don't like that.
Or an electrified ring.
Yeah.
Like, but that's a part of the mechanics in this is using the ring to bounce the opponent off of. It's almost like a weird kind of juggle.
But it's not balanced. It's not balanced remotely. Like you can lose, and there's some Dead or Alive games where you can lose 3/4 of your health off of one environmental hit.
Yeah, that's true.
Like Tekken knows not to do that.
Yeah,
Tekken knows like you can break through the walls. And you can do there's a ring out stuff sometimes But like that is not what anybody wants from this kind of thing. Wall bounces are one thing. That's always been part of 3D fighting. But like.
They're a big part of this franchise, though.
Oh yeah, but like,
a lot of the rings too are really small.
Right, but what I'm saying is like you can have those big moments, but you have to stop making them hurt you.
Yeah,
they have to just be cosmetic,
or just really lower the damage.
You can somewhat lower the damage, but like generally, people do not want environmental damage on a 3D fighter. That has always been
even in a 3D fighter where that's a big part of the game.
Yeah, because it's never balanced right.
Yeah, but that can be done. They can do it.
That they're not going to, and even if they try,
you have such a dour attitude towards Team Ninja. You think that they're not going to do anything.
Team Ninja is not what Team Ninja once was, and Team Ninja has never.
Some people would argue they're making better games now than they ever have.
Those people are wrong. But like. The solution traditionally has been about half the stages in a given Dead or Alive game have been banned in competition.
No, it's true. Yeah.
So you're just stuck playing like the boring.
I'm not saying that you're wrong about their prior games. I just don't have this defeatist attitude that they can't fix anything.
It's not just the sense of not fixing anything. It's the sense that no one will give it a chance.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter.
It does seem like DOA 6 did not sell well out of the gate, and they were forced to kind of go.
It was a disaster.
Yeah, it was kind of forced to go free to play.
Yeah.
So this franchise, you're right, it probably is in need of some massive changes to make it palatable to where people will pay for it again. But at the same time, Team Ninja made so much damn money off of all the bikini outfits and crap off of this. It may be free to play out of the gate now.
Yeah, I mean, you can still sell bikinis all the time if you want, obviously. But, like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I like the Dead or Alive mechanics. I like the counter system. I like kind of the rock, paper, scissors counter system they have. Some people don't dig that. It's also very hard to make work online properly because the timing is split second most of the time.
Yep.
The potential there, like way more potential to make something worthwhile than I think Ninja Gaiden has. I mean, you do still get Ryu Hayabusa in here.
Yep. It's the only place you do get him.
Yeah, these days.
Sadly, it's the only place where you can ever find him. So let's do the same thing. Let's retcon Ninja Gaiden. What do you think that they need to do with Ninja Gaiden to make it viable in 2025?
Nothing. I don't have a plan for Ninja Gaiden because they can never match the original 2. So I don't see the point in trying.
Huh.
Make something new. Make something new that makes as big a wave and big a splash as Ninja Gaiden 1 did on the Xbox.
I mean, I would argue that it doesn't need to change that much because there aren't games like this anymore. The closest thing is probably Devil May Cry.
Somewhat.
But this is still different. Like, this is all about, like, samurai sword combat. Like, there just aren't games that have such a narrow focus anymore, I guess is the best way to put it. Look, the story and stuff in these games, never good. Even Ninja Gaiden 1 or 2, the plot in both of them is just dumb. Like, at least the first one didn't try to become overwrought with plot. Like, by the second Ninja Gaiden, like, Itagaki was like, oh, okay, where these games are headed, they need to be cinematic, and they need to have a big plot, and they need to have, like, a cinema every, like, 10 minutes. This one was way more pure. This was just like, here's a very flimsy framework that needs to motivate you to chop up this next section of bad guys.
And it was just
and here are some cryptic cutscenes that don't really tell you all that much.
It had just enough like of glimpses into whatever this world was that you're like, all right, sure.
It was kind of like a kung fu movie in some ways.
Somewhat, but also like early on you're like, okay, they're in an ancient village sort of thing, and then oh no, we're in an airship, and that guy is a cyborg with a laser gun. So I get okay, so we're in modern times, and now we're okay. I don't know. It was just weird. It was sort of like. It worked in the way that like the merchant worked in Resident Evil 4. It was just like, all right, I'm just going to accept this. This is just how it is, apparently.
Yeah. I see someone in chat saying this isn't I didn't say this was the samurai game. They use samurai swords. That's all I said.
They use ninja
People
swords.
just nitpick like crazy.
Well, they use ninja swords. Samurai wouldn't use that sword.
No, they use samurai swords. And because I shot with samurai swords for 2 days straight with Team Ninja to record that documentary. I literally sat in a dark room for 2 days with samurai swords, shooting the swords, while he stood looking over my shoulder, bitching. that the sword didn't look right in the light. I've never seen anything in my life, Matt, like this.
Nobody at Team Ninja now would put that care into that.
No. I agree with you 1,000%. I will never shoot 2 days with 4 swords in a dark room ever again in my life. Like, if you watch that documentary, you'll see it. Like, we shoot the swords, and there's a shot where Yosuke Hayashi, like, pulls the samurai sword and draws it, like, across his face, and that kicks off the whole documentary. We shot 2 days for, like, 90 seconds of that documentary because he was such a stickler about his samurai swords. I was just like, and then he was really picky about who touched them and how they touched them. Like, our camera guy and our lighting guy were trying to adjust him. He's like, don't touch them. I'm like, dude, it was one of the...
some of those things were probably hundreds of years old.
They were, yeah. And we respected it. Like, we totally respected what he was saying, but we were like, dude, we got to do our job. Like, it was a bizarre couple weeks shooting with those guys. Look, I do think Ninja Gaiden absolutely has an opportunity to be relevant in 2025, but I would argue that they don't need to change it too much. That would be the big mistake, is changing it too much from what they found with this first reboot right here, and staying away from what they started drifting towards with Ninja Gaiden 2, and then just completely forget Ninja Gaiden 3. But I think that there's still a market for this franchise, and Dead or Alive, as long as the girls have big boobs, there's always going to be a market for it. So I think both these franchises are still viable. I think Dead or Alive probably needs more changes than this does for it to stay relevant. But again, if their whole tactic is like, let's just make it free to play, and you look at a game like Multiversus, which is just rolling in the dough, being free to play, there's a lot of case studies out there to help Team Ninja pull the trigger on a free to play version of Dead or Alive out of the gate instead of trying to sell it and then falling on their face and being like, oh gosh, now I need to change it to free to play. I think the messaging is better if you know that right from the beginning as well. So I hope that Ninja Gaiden isn't dead. It is still one of my favorite action franchises. I would like to see what they can do with it in the modern age with modern technology. Team Ninja's games still do look pretty good. They used to be like the best looking games on the market. Do you remember that?
Somewhat. I mean, they always had a look to them.
Yep. Very crisp, very clean, and very fast.
A little too smooth.
Frame rates always pegged at 60. Like, there's like something for those games still, I think.
Somewhat. I never liked the way they did skin. The characters always looked a little too anime.
Yeah, or they look like action figures.
They look like action figures. Or they look like cartoons.
Yeah.
And sometimes to the point that they don't even match the backgrounds.
Yeah.
Dead or Alive has more of a problem with that than Ninja Gaiden did.
Well, it's also crazy just looking at how simple the visuals are in this. Like, and how simple the level design is.
Right, but that's part of the why it works.
Yeah.
And, like, there's no way in hell a reboot of this today would know that and understand that and do that. It's going to be over-complicated, over-processed nonsense. I don't trust it. I don't trust them at all. Like, make something else that isn't going to carry that kind of baggage with the people that care about it and has no appeal to people who don't care about it. Because I think the market for that, one of the reasons they don't make games like this anymore is because nobody cares. Like, they're not popular.
Well, I think nobody cared because the last 2 games they pretty much botched. They hit it. It's very rare for them to knock it out of the park on the first pitch, but that's what they did with this franchise in 3D.
Right, but other people don't make these games either.
Right.
Like the kind of the intense action game kind of vanished because it's not what anybody wanted.
Well, it's been taken over by...
Everything became an RPG hybrid.
Yeah, or it's been taken over by hard games that are hard in a different kind of way, like Dark Souls, things like that.
I think a similar audience is interested in Dark Souls, but I think most people I think most people who are very focused or obsessed on the From stuff would consider kind of a return to Ninja Gaiden as a step backwards.
Yeah.
Like, I think you'd have a hard time getting people to do this again because they'd find it too simple. But if you make this too complex, you lose what makes that Ninja Gaiden, and you've no longer made like a successor to what we liked. And that's kind of why it's like, I don't see the point of going over this again and again with whatever Team Ninja happens to be now, because whatever you make is not going to be satisfactory to either the current market or the people who want this throwback. It's a losing battle. And
I have more faith, Kyle.
I don't know why.
Because Team Ninja's made some good games.
Years and years ago.
No, you don't think Neo's a good game?
I think it's okay, but I never got very far into it because
it's too hard.
It's too hard and too inaccessible.
Yeah, it's too hard. I think they can still do it. Like, I don't think the talent drain there. Like, honestly, look at what Itagaki took guys away with him, and look at the games that he made after that. Mm-hmm. They were awful.
Yeah.
So they could have taken all the talent out of Team Ninja. There's still some people in there, and Hayashi, he knows what he's doing. He's worked through all of these Ninja Gaiden games with Itagaki. Like, he was basically the next in command. That's what that whole documentary was about Itagaki passing the torch to Hayashi-san. So I think they can do it. I'm going to keep my mind open and hope that it will happen. And I do not believe what they said today, that was just him talking out of turn. You do not create a slide in a presentation for something that you're just like talking off the cuff about. It just doesn't happen.
Unless he thinks that's his way of getting his way to do that, and everyone else is like, no, like, we're not doing that.
He's like, yes, because I'm the studio head.
Studio head doesn't mean he's got the power. The board of directors has the power.
I know.
And I bet the board of directors thinks more like me than like you.
Yeah.
Because making a new Ninja Gaiden is an uphill battle with no advantages. There's just no way to win.
I don't know. I think that versus Neo 3 or whatever.
Make something new. Make something new and interesting.
I feel like they've been doing that, and like and they're not bad games.
Make a new thing that is not the same thing you've made over and over again. Like, don't do another Souls game. Don't do another ninja action game. Think of something else. Like, part of the reason Devil's Third didn't work wasn't just that, like, it was trapped on terrible hardware. It was that, like, you've done this before.
It was a terrible game.
It was a terrible game, but it also didn't feel like it was being made by people who cared about what they were making.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get a game or a movie or whatever, and you can feel how bored the people who made it were making it. Mm-hmm. And Devil's Third felt like that to me. That no one believed in it.
It was just...
Except maybe Itagaki. Itagaki seemed to believe in it.
I just think it was one of those games where Itagaki was like, I have all these things that I've thought about for the last 15 years, and I'm going to put them all into this game. It's just like this patchwork of mediocre ideas is the best way I could describe that game. The characters, everything. The plot, like, none of it was coherent and had like a unified vision that they strove for and achieved. It was just like... it's like every dream he had for like a year straight, he just would write down when he woke up, and I'm putting that in the game. And like, I don't care if it doesn't make sense within the context of the rest of the game. This is my game. It's what I'm putting in there. And it just was a disaster. But now, if you own the Wii U version, it's worth like $600. So if you listened to me way back when I told you to go buy that game and never open it, you owe me. You owe me a beer.
Yeah, but good luck finding someone to actually pay that price. But
yeah, I mean, that's what they're going for on eBay. The only people who are
they're sitting there priced at on eBay. It's not what they're selling from. I have an unopened copy sitting downstairs. Like, I did that. I knew that was going to be. I had my friend from Canada go find me one and send it to me because I'm like, it's going to be an important piece eventually.
The only people who are going to pay that price for it are the people who want to have the entire Wii U catalog.
The Nintendo collectors who collect everything in the Nintendo
There's like
system
10,000 of those in the world or whatever, and you just got to hope that eventually one of those people comes along and like, all right, time to buy Devil's Third. That's how it works, though. That's how the collecting scene works. So there you go. There you go. Anyway, I think there's going to be reboots of Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive, but Matt seems to think that there won't be, at least not of Ninja Gaiden.
No, I think Dead or Alive, you can do whatever the hell you want with that over and over, especially since it still seems to be functioning as a free-to-play, microtransaction game.
Yep.
Ninja Gaiden is a loser at this point. I don't see it happening. I don't see the modern Team Ninja being able to put something together that is so good and so compelling that it overcomes sort of the skepticism of the reboot of the reboot.
Okay.
Like, I just don't see it.
I disagree. I'll try to stay
just go play the first one again. It's going to be better. It's going to be better than anything they make now.
Yeah.
Promise.
Yep.
And it still holds up.
Yep. Justin Orman says, I have a copy, but I opened it to play it for 30 minutes. Nolan Elric says, plenty of Devil's Third sales for $300 in the past month. Yeah. So it looks like if you want to sell it immediately, you can put it up for $300. Mm-hmm. And if you want to get premium price...
Yeah, Wii U stuff is starting to get collector's price. I mean, the Wii U turned 10 last week.
Yeah. It's the first Nintendo console I don't have a big collection of stuff for. And then from then on, because till that point, Nintendo would send me boxed copies of everything. And then, like, after the first, 6 months of the Wii U, they just started sending codes. And then that was it. That's all we get now. So my Nintendo collection pretty much stopped there. I think I have 5 box games for Switch total.
Yeah, I have more than that, but not much more than that. I literally do not own a PS5 game.
I own a lot.
I do not own any physical PS5
I have
games.
15 PS5 games, I think, somewhere around there. Yeah.
I did have Miles Morales because it came in the bundle.
Right.
But I gave it away to somebody else because I got a digital copy.
Okay, it's time to move on to the most fun topic of today's show. It's time for our Turkey Awards, where Matt and I...
Flash forward to 2026 when the Turkey Award is Ninja Gaiden.
It's possible. That could very well be possible. Where Matt and I pick 3 losers from 2022, 3 games, people, products, whatever, that pissed us off in 2022. And again, as I said at the top of the show, I do kind of hate sending you guys off on Thanksgiving holiday with Matt and I kind of complaining about stuff, but this is fun and kind of lighthearted.
To remind you that there's other things to be thankful for.
That's right. And in fact, if you're listening to this show right now, the archive of it, and you're flying on a plane, you're driving in a car, or you're on a train or whatever, on the way to see your relatives for Thanksgiving, this will be your one last dour note before you get together with the family and have the time of your life. And I hope you travel safely, and I hope you have a great time with your family. So as I said, Matt and I have both chosen 3 losers for our Turkey Awards. Matt, what's your first one?
Gotham Knights.
Gotham Knights. Why am I not surprised by that at all, Matt?
What a shocker. This was almost as predictable as a bad Ninja Gaiden reboot. And probably plays somewhat similar to it. Yeah, this game, I mean, it's hard to say I was disappointed by this game because I knew...
Yeah, I think we had a good idea. It wasn't going to be excellent.
I think from the very beginning, we knew this was not shaping up to be... The instant I saw level numbers over the enemies in that first thing...
The first time I saw combat, I knew.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is bad.
You could just see it was janky. We're just watching the combat.
It's like janky combat plus... I got level scaled enemies.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh no, no,
not great. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Why does this one guy robbing this bank take 2 punches to the face and this other guy takes 40? Like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, maybe that's why they didn't scale the enemies in Pokemon Scarlet.
Yeah, they make at least a little more sense than this. Like how many? It's like, look, Nightwing is as strong as Nightwing is. He can either punch a man out in 2 hits or he can punch him out in 13.
Yeah.
But it's not both. Like people are tough in different ways, but that doesn't mean that you can take that many hits from an electrified nightstick because you've been being a criminal longer, I guess. I don't know. Like, I'm a level 15 mugger. What does that mean? Like, that's stupid.
Matt, I would imagine if every podcast did the Turkey Awards that this game would end up
I would think
in every single episode. Somebody would pick it because it was the other thing too is that we waited so long for a Batman game.
That is the real tragedy of this. Is
we're kind of back in the GameCube
if we were well, supplied with good Batman content in games already, like this wouldn't be that annoying because it would just be a low quality side game.
Yeah.
But this is the first like AAA quote unquote Batman game we've gotten since 2015.
Yep. Yeah.
And they give us this. And then it's not like there's anything else to look forward to because Rocksteady is going to unload that Suicide Squad crap on us next year.
Eventually.
Which probably will be better than this, but at the same time, like, at least I care about playing 3 out of these 4 characters in a theoretical sense.
Right.
I don't want to play as anyone in Suicide Squad except maybe Harley Quinn.
What about the shark guy? What's his name?
King Shark.
King Shark.
I think he's funny in the James Gunn movie, but I want to play as him. I don't like big bruiser guys.
He can just bite people's heads off.
But not Superman's. Like, I hope they got some clever ways to kill some of these Justice League people.
I'm kind of excited for that game a little bit.
I'm interested to see what it looks like because it's obviously next gen only in a way that this certainly isn't. I mean, I know this only came out on next gen systems, but give me a break.
Yeah.
Clearly that was not the original
meant that
intent.
way from the beginning. Yeah.
And there are some nice like visual tricks in this here and there. The reflections are nice.
Yeah, it's not an ugly game.
No, it's not. Like I think some of the animation is not great, but like overall, there's some nice hardware tricks going on here. I do wish they'd figure out a way to make the capes work better.
Yep.
But I don't know. Like it's annoying. It's very sad to me that this is what we got out of this instead of like I said before, like when we talked about it originally, Like, this game is taking a lot more cues from Spider-Man than I expected it would.
Yeah.
Partly, I guess, because it's dealing with characters who are more agile than strong compared to Batman. But like I said, how Batman plays in a video game is a solved problem now.
Yeah.
Batman plays like Arkham.
Yeah.
Even if you are not making an Arkham 4, if you are making a game about Batman, I don't care what you're doing, you better feel like playing Arkham.
Yeah, I agree.
You can do whatever you want with Batman. You make a Nightfall game, make a whatever game out of it.
The combat,
make a Batman the
ball.
Animated Series game, whatever. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. Like,
Yeah.
and that's also sad. We're never going to get another Batman game with Kevin Conroy.
It is sad, yeah.
Like, it's
He looked really young still.
He was really young. He was
Yeah.
like, what is he, 58?
Yeah.
59?
It's awful. Terrible.
But it's just...
I don't think anyone's going to disagree with
No, I
you giving
don't-
Gotham Knights a turkey award.
No, this game doesn't have a lot of hardcore defenders, I've
Yeah.
noticed, except every once in a while you see a Facebook group that's just dedicated to Batman shit and no one knows it.
They're going to love everything no matter what.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. My first turkey award goes to Yuji Naka. So, you guys may remember last year there was this god-awful game that Yuji Naka made called Balan Wonderworld,
Balan
Wonderland.
Wonderworld. Balan Wonderworld, yes. And you can't arrest him for that, unfortunately.
Well,
but
you might have.
The next
maybe
best
we
thing.
should have. So the game was terrible, and after it came out and it got terrible reviews and everybody hated it, and you can see why people hated it because it just. It's like someone
it's not nice
puked
to look
on the
at.
screen.
Yeah.
He made up all these excuses about how Square Enix treated him poorly and shoved him out of development at the last minute. And I'll be honest with you, I was one of the people who kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt. I was like, you know what? Yuji Naka's done a lot in his career. He never really worked with Square Enix. My best educated guess is, it probably was a mix of the two, but I would lean more on the side of Square Enix feeling like this game was going nowhere and telling him, it's time to wrap it up, buddy.
Yeah.
So I had a little bit, there's his name right there. I had a little bit of sympathy for him through the Balan Wonderworld thing. However, this week it has come out.
My sympathy for him ran out after he made Billy Hatcher and the Giant Ant.
That's where my love affair with Yuji Naka ended.
Like, oh, you have bad ideas.
Yeah, you're not Miyamoto, basically.
No.
That's when I realized, okay, you two are not the same.
It's like you're like Miyamoto's over here. His vanity project, personal thing is Pikmin,
right?
And yours is
this is right.
Like, okay,
huge difference.
You have diverged from one another there.
So I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. As it turns out, I was wrong for doing that, Matt, because this week he was arrested for insider trading because Square Enix was working on a mobile Dragon Quest game that he was privy to, and he and at least one other Square Enix employees went and bought stock based upon the insider information.
It was the company that was contracted to make the game was a pretty small, unknown developer, and the three of them suddenly bought a lot of stock in that company right before the announcement.
Yep. And they got caught. And they got arrested. And now Yuji Naka may go to jail for insider trading on a Square Enix mobile Dragon Quest game. And all I got to say is when I read that news, I was like, I was wrong about Balan Wonderworld.
And why couldn't this have happened before Balan Wonderworld had been finished?
Right, exactly. And Square Enix knew all along that he was a bad egg. And they were trying to get him to wrap up that game to get him out of their company. And he caught wind of this other stuff going on. And I don't know, is it possible that he's broke at this point?
I don't know.
I mean, are those residuals still rolling in from the first three Sonic games?
I don't think they're residuals, but I would hope that he invested wisely.
You would think, but if you do something like this, you seem to be pretty desperate. So I don't know what's going on.
Desperation and greed are two different things.
You're right. That's true. And again, Yuji Naka is someone that I knew very early in my career. He seemed like a great guy. Like, I met him several times. He was like the nicest dude you'd ever come into contact with.
He's very calm.
Yeah. But as it turns out, he's a criminal. And so Yuji Naka...
Alleged. He's not convicted yet.
Right. Good point. He is an alleged criminal. And so Yuji Naka earns my first Turkey Award for 2022. Matt, what's your second Turkey Award?
Second one would be... where is it? There it is. Babylon's Fall. Speaking of Square Enix and bad choices.
Yeah. Seems like there's been a lot this year.
Yeah. Square, I don't know what you're doing over there, but between this and Balan Wonderworld, I'm really worried about what you keep greenlighting.
Yep. Well, remember, Matt, they don't think that Western games are a smart strategy, and Western studios...
Well, they changed their mind, though. They backtracked on that like a couple months ago.
Oh, they did?
They finally said, like, no, we've decided that we do need... I'm like,
now that we've got rid of two great Western studios...
and we've also, like, put out all this garbage and all these weird little small RPGs that use the same font in their generic logos... Maybe Various Daylife was finally the straw that broke the camel's back. But this is definitely... I mean, I've played all those games, and they're all kind of various forms of not great. Yeah. But this is maybe the only one that I would call outright bad.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. Like, I was kind of... When I got this, I was expecting it to be kind of like... Not good, necessarily, but sort of like a nice distraction. Like I was like, oh, maybe I can just sort of while away on this one for
good
a while.
Good podcast game, right?
Yeah, like something to just play as, like, background noise almost.
Yeah.
No. No. Like, it's not even that interesting. I knew I was in trouble in that first cutscene with the ship.
Yeah.
And, like, it pans over the character models. You're like, why are you showing me these character models
up
this closely? Like, these were clearly never meant to be seen.
Where their hair was just a texture slapped on the side of their head.
And, like, the shoes, like, it's
so bad.
Like, you couldn't tell what the shoe was, really.
Yeah. It's so bad.
Yeah, it was not amazing.
That's a good way to put it. Not amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Combat's not great. It's just sort of like standard Platinum stuff, but like made by the interns.
Yeah.
Almost. Like, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. None of it works.
Yeah.
And, like, you spend all this downtime at the hub stuff, and, like, all the live service stuff just feels like weirdly grafted on top of it. But then, like, there's not even the combat system to there's no catch to it, so there's no, like, there's no teeth. There's nothing to grab onto. Like, it's just like, it's one of the easiest things I have put down and walked away from and never looked at again all year.
No regrets.
No.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Another worthy pick for a Turkey Award for 2022.
And again, didn't have to be that way.
No.
Like,
well, they should have canned the game.
Should have canned the game. Should have just let them make the game they originally planned to make.
Not only did they not can the game, they let the studio create the first couple rounds of DLC.
Yeah. As though you wouldn't play that game
It'd be like,
and
I'm
know
good.
immediately. We probably don't need to move forward on this any further, unless by some miracle people like it.
Right.
You know,
and they did not.
They did no, they did not.
Okay,
that was one of the fastest shutdowns of a game like that I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it lasted like 9 months.
I'll say this: it's the least amount that I've played a game to talk about it on GameFace for the entire year.
Yeah, it's pretty clever because you just don't want to do it anymore.
Because you just realize very quickly that that's what the game is, and you don't need to play any more of it. Yeah, yep. Okay, my second turkey for 2022 is what I would guess is a company that's been a regular target for Turkey Awards the world over, and that is Electronic Arts, EA, and its tweet about single-player games that it put out this year. Its tone-deaf tweet that it put out about single-player games where it said they're a 10, but they only like playing single-player games. Meanwhile, was it just the week before that the new Star Wars Jedi game from Respawn had been announced, and Vince Zampella is sitting there like, hey, like, we make single-player games. In fact, we made a single-player game that is one of your best-selling games from the last 20 years. What the hell? Like, and the funny part is like, the gig had already been up with EA at that point with single-player games because it had already admitted, we were wrong. Holy crap, this Jedi game sold out the ass. Like, we're all in on single-player now. And then the tone-deaf social media team is like, nope, we're just going to quadruple down on our stupidity.
What game are you talking about?
Yeah.
That we should be playing? Because I don't remember the last multiplayer game you put out.
Well,
there was maybe Apex. I mean, Battlefield was obviously a mess. Who's playing that right now?
Yeah.
Is like, and then like on top of it, like, are you talking about Apex Legends? Because you know who made that? The same people who made the single-player game that we're working on right now. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And apparently there was a plan where like they were going to argue with each other, and it was going to be like more of a conversation between the various social media like accounts that EA held, but Vince basically jumped in so fast.
We're good on
like,
that one.
It was like, like,
yeah. So once again, EA did something really stupid in a year, and it's earned a Turkey Award here on GameFace.
And like maybe, I guess, almost the last thing I remember thinking about EA for, other than like the Battlefield problems. And I guess they got a Need for Speed game coming out in a week, which is.
We also have to think
they are such a non-entity now.
They are. All EA's multiplayer games suck.
Yeah.
Think about it. The last couple Battlefields have been terrible.
Mm-hmm.
BioWare makes its ultimate multiplayer game. It falls flat on its face. And now maybe
what was Anthem?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that was for sale for $2.
If you look at that tweet
this week,
half of the responses underneath it are just Anthem says what's up.
Yeah.
Anthem says hey. What's that Anthem? Like, it's just like,
can you even play Anthem anymore?
I don't know. You may not be able to.
I don't know. I'm not going to install it.
I'm not going to try. I actually liked it more than you did, but still, it wasn't a great game. And for as much as EA built it up, it basically just fell flat on its face. So EA gets my second Turkey Award for 2022. Matt, what is your final Turkey Award for the year?
Final Turkey Award. I mean, I guess this is a Turkey Award, but it's also a little bit of grave dancing. Is Google Stadia. I'd say rest in peace, but I wish no peace upon that stupid
I mean, it could conceivably win the Turkey Award for the last, half decade.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wins the, who in the world didn't know this was a bad idea award. It's like...
I like that meter there. That's kind of how far...
Is that how long the service is going to be up?
That's how far it made it into its lifespan before it died.
4 hours and 25 minutes before Phil Harrison murders another company.
And Matt, it's not even just about the service. It's about the people that were involved.
Yeah.
And taking Jade Raymond off the market for 3 years when she could have been making games. Look how quickly she goes somewhere else, and she's got games coming already.
Yeah, already happening.
Already happening, gonna be done by early.
And already recognize the people she's working for already recognizing how valuable she is.
Yeah,
whereas,
and already it's
whereas Google wouldn't even give her time to finish anything.
Yeah.
It was just so dumb.
PlayStation's
so dumb.
yo, here's a team of 150 people, and here's a gigantic budget, and here's a brand new building, and these guys are just go work in the Google offices with 5 people and see what happens.
I mean, hopefully she got paid real well for that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm sure she did.
Got the Google money.
But she would have got paid really well no matter where she was.
Sure.
And she could have made art instead.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why you would hook up with this venture, because if you don't know what their plans are beyond I'm going to make games for this platform, it probably seemed like a good idea, and obviously you knew they weren't going to run out of money.
Yeah.
But we said at the time, Google doesn't let things live long enough to find out whether they can make it on their own or not. So
El Guapo 3385 says the turkey for Google Stadia should go to Phil Harrison. He gets a lifetime Turkey Achievement Award. I agree. Mm-hmm. Again, he's the ultimate failing up guy in the gaming industry. He's never repped anything that was a big success ever.
I can't think of anything.
He presided over PlayStation during its only bad console.
What did he do before that?
What did he do? He was at PlayStation a long time, but he was at PlayStation of Europe for a a long time, so we didn't see him.
That's right.
He was working behind the scenes
Sony Europe
with that studio that was in London.
Yeah, Getaway and things like that. Yeah, that's right.
He was working with all those guys for a long time. And look, working in a development studio is one thing. Leading a platform is something entirely different, and he has failed every time. So cheers to you, El Guapo. I agree with you 1,000%.
But he somehow keeps...
doesn't seem like he's landing on his feet this time.
Biz dev doesn't seem to have a lot of consequences.
It really doesn't.
When it comes down to
Feels like you can just throw a bunch of crap at the wall, and if nothing sticks, no harm, no foul.
Yeah, I guess
I don't get it. I'd like one of those jobs. That'd be great. So there you go. Phil Harrison and Google Stadia, your final turkey for 2022. And my final turkey for 2022, and this might be a little controversial, but for me, it's Microsoft and Xbox. And it's not because they've had a terrible year of software, which they have, and I could probably give them a Turkey Award just for that. I mean, we just talked about a narrative, choice-driven adventure game as Xbox's best exclusive for 2022. Think about that for a second. So I could easily pin a Turkey Award on Xbox just for that. But no, what really grinds my gears about 2022 for Xbox is how they are bending over for Sony and letting Sony just ream them right up the rear end. What are they doing? Matt, did you see that now Microsoft has offered PlayStation 10 years of Call of Duty? They have offered for Sony to call off the dogs and be like, hey, stop filing these reports with regulators. We'll give you 10 years of Call of Duty. By the way, PlayStation is still waffling on it and is saying that may not be good enough. This is insane. Xbox just spent, you can't even fathom how much money they just spent to acquire Activision. Let's be honest, What did they really acquire with that? They really acquired a couple Blizzard games and Call of Duty. Activision otherwise doesn't make any games, Matt. Mm-hmm. So you just spent all this money on Call of Duty, and you're going to give it to your competitor. Now, I'll be honest with you. I have a soft spot in my heart for PlayStation owners. I don't want them to lose Call of Duty. So don't get it twisted. Don't think that I'm like trying to make your lives miserable or whatever. I'm just saying from a business perspective, it's insane that Microsoft is acquiescing to PlayStation like it is for Call of Duty. This is why you bought Activision.
Well, they probably also wanted Candy Crush.
I guess. And that
Candy Crush makes more money than Warzone.
It is money in the bank. You're right. Like Candy Crush, that's king though. That was a whole separate acquisition.
That's part of the whole thing.
Was it? Was it part of the Activision thing?
That's part of Activision.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with you. Sure. Candy Crush is like a money tree basically. And
it's not going to get you any headlines in the release calendar.
But it's going to make you $1 billion every quarter, like no problem. I do get that part of it. But Call of Duty is bigger than Candy Crush. And that is why you really spent the big bucks, and they're doing nothing with it. They are neutering themselves. They are castrating themselves for no reason. Those deals are going to go through. I don't understand why Microsoft believes that they're not, and they're bending over for it.
Like, I think they must be running the numbers and realizing they're going to make more money from residuals and
off of royalties for the sales on PS5?
Because the PlayStation numbers are so big for Call of Duty, the revenue from that is probably going to be worth more than withholding it.
I was very critical of Phil Harrison for pretty much the entire Xbox One generation. I said he should have been fired. And then he seemed to turn it around. Phil Spencer.
Yeah.
Who did I say?
Harrison.
Oh, Phil Harrison.
Too many Phils in one section.
Too much Phil. Phil Spencer, he kind of turned it around. He started changing things. But again, now I feel like he's being a bad leader again. Like, I don't see. There's no reason why he's doing this.
I think like I said, I think I think the revenue must add up one way or the other. The other thing I think is they don't have a lot of leverage right now because nothing's coming out.
Yeah.
Obviously they're supposed to have Starfield out by now, but probably better to push it and because I think you need a first impression from the first Bethesda release under Microsoft ownership to be like, look, it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be full of bugs and all that stuff.
Yep.
And I don't think we're going to be playing Starfield till next fall.
Me neither. I think it's totally next holiday game. Yeah, I agree.
At the very earliest, you're talking about June, and I don't see them doing that.
No way. I don't see that happening at all.
They've already said Redfall's coming first.
Yeah. I just actually got on the beta for Redfall. Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll talk about that next week, if they'll let me.
But, I don't know. I think Microsoft just continues to be in their holding pattern that they've been in for, 4 years at this point?
I mean, they had one decent year last year.
Yeah.
Decent.
Mostly because of Forza.
Yeah.
But,
Halo.
Yeah, that didn't last.
It really didn't.
It was a nice week.
It was. Yeah. But it's like...
They ever had co-op?
What?
Did co-op ever get in there?
Yeah, it finally did launch.
Okay,
like a month and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whew.
Almost a year later.
Next Halo game won't have Master Chief.
We'll notice all the people that left.
Right.
And now their talent drain is happening at 343. So anyway... I really felt like Xbox had an opportunity after they spent all this money to really kind of put a chokehold on things here for the next 10 years, and it's just let it out of its grasp. And it's like it's not going to move the needle at all now. Mm-hmm. It spent all this money, and I can't understand how the investment is going to move the needle. Do you? Do you see a way?
Just income. It's just income.
They're doing this all to drive subscriptions to Game Pass, but notice we have not had an announcement about Game Pass subscriptions in a long time. And you know what that means? They haven't gone up.
Well, that hasn't been a long time. It's been like a month.
No. We got updated Game Pass numbers
a month ago? They just talked about how it's profitable now.
No, but I'm saying the number of subscribers. Like how many subscribers they have.
They said how many subscribers somewhere around Gamescom.
Did they?
Yeah, there was.
I haven't heard an updated figure in more than a year.
No, there was a number recently.
Because what happened was it leaked out that there was 30 million, and Xbox came out and said, "No, we actually don't have that many." And that was the last thing I heard. That was last holiday season.
There was definitely some kind of update around Gamescom. I remember that. But
I don't remember any of that. But anyway, that's what it's supposed to be doing: driving Game Pass subscriptions. And does it seem like it is? Have you talked to anyone anecdotally that's like, yeah, I'm getting Game Pass now because Microsoft bought all the... Oh, really?
Well, not because they bought anything, but because it's a good deal.
Just because they're getting it. Yeah.
And I got a couple people that are like feeling weird. I got a couple people I know who bought an Xbox and feel weird because they don't own any games for it.
Yeah.
They're just playing Game Pass.
Oh, interesting.
And they're kind of like, it's weird because I bought a system, but I haven't bought any games, but I'm playing tons of games because I have Game Pass. I'm like, well, that's what they want.
I've hardly used Game Pass this year. I just use it for Pentiment. I use it for Tunic.
There you
Plague
go.
Tale.
Okay, so October they announced numbers for January. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, see, January 22, 25 million.
Yeah, but they announced that at the end of last month.
But see, we knew that already because last year, somebody, I think it wasn't Pachter, but some financial person was like, they have 30 million. And Xbox went on the record and said, no, we don't. Like, we have like 25 or whatever.
But they did talk about income a couple months ago.
Oh, okay.
And the income was pretty high.
Yeah.
And income is probably...
Swanland says Plague Tale should have been a turkey.
Yeah, I thought about it.
By the way, that show went up on YouTube, and there are some people that love that game.
Oh,
that
sure.
went after us and said we're insane for not thinking it was good.
No, I just...
But even they, like, would acquiesce and be like, you're right, though, the slingshot's stupid. Like, even they were like, okay, I get some of your points. But anyway. So anyway, that is my final turkey for 2022. Xbox, to me, completely botching the acquisitions that it's made so far. And the icing on the cake would be ultimately if they don't go through for some stupid reason after it is like bent over backwards to try to make sure it does go through.
There's no grounds for it not going
I agree. There's no grounds for them to give ground to PlayStation. So maybe what you're saying about profits, blah, 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 doing the math and saying, well, we can make X amount of, we can make $5 off of each copy.
I think the time will come will that all that stuff sort of winds down. But like right now, they make more money from Candy Crush and the other King stuff than they make from anything else, including Call of Duty. Candy Crush is a bigger revenue maker than Call of Duty. 100%. I'm pretty sure they've said that.
I don't know. I'd have to ask Pachter about that one. But they also, by the way, this new Call of Duty sold through the roof as well. It made $1 billion in the first like weekend or whatever.
Candy Crush makes that in a month.
No, it doesn't.
It makes a lot.
No, it's like per quarter it makes $1 billion.
That's still more than Call of Duty makes because Call of Duty comes out once a year.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to ask Pac about that. But anyway, that's my final turkey for 2022. However, I do have an honorable mention before we go. And my honorable mention is Abandoned. And it is a fake game that a lot of you guys on Sifted fell for. This dude, Hassan Karaman, totally swindled everybody. You guys all thought this game was the new Silent Hill. You guys were digging around.
That thing.
You guys were digging around in the frames of this trailer looking for clues to say it might be PT. You guys argued with me, some of you, that I was crazy for not believing that this was related to Kojima or Silent Hill. And as it turns out, it was a scam all along. The game doesn't even exist. The funny part about this trailer is at the end, it says something like gameplay trailer coming soon. And it never came because there was never a game. It was all a lie. And the way that this guy, Hassan Karaman, dragged people along, and Kojima, by the way, he dragged him into it. Kojima had to come out not that long ago and be like, that's all nonsense. I have nothing to do with this game at all. All because you guys, even though we were telling you, don't get suckered into it, y'all did. And so it's not your fault, by the way. I'm not blaming you guys for falling for it. It is Hassan Karaman's fault for dragging people along. Instead of just coming out and being like, no, this has nothing to do with Kojima, he dragged it along until Kojima finally had to come out and say, no, that's nonsense. So
what was the point? What was he trying?
He's just trying to probably get people to invest in his studio so that he could actually build the game, because this was all just smoke and mirrors.
What is this some kind of...
This is something
CG
he built
thing,
in Unreal Engine 5 and walked through and was like, hey, here's this new video game. The crazy part is he hoodwinked PlayStation into running it. This trailer appeared on PlayStation's official YouTube channel. So maybe this should have been one of my turkeys. Like my legit turkey. Maybe it shouldn't have been an honorable mention, because all the stuff that happened around this game was just dirty.
The PT thing will eternally be one of the most confusing things in video game history to me. Like, I do not... I mean, it's not like I didn't like PT.
Yeah.
I will never understand why people are so hung up on that thing.
Because they can't have it, Matt.
But that's not even what the game was going to be.
I know.
Silent Hills was just going to be like a normal Silent Hill game. Like, that PT was not what that game was going to be.
I know.
It was just the Stanley Parable with creepy shit in it. I don't understand.
I do still wish I had it on my hard drive, though. I shouldn't have deleted it off of my hard drive.
I still have it on my PS4.
I know.
It's not hooked up.
I deleted it off like a dumbass.
I don't know why. I'm never going to play it again.
Yeah.
Like, I played it. It was fine.
Because I think someday you'll be able to sell that console with it on there. It'll be worth money.
Yeah, probably. But it's also got my... as long as I can delete my account.
You'd have to sell your account, too.
I ain't selling my account. That's ridiculous.
Well... Someday when I die, probably my relatives will sell my account.
I can, but like by the time,
dude, my account is badass.
By the time you die, all the people that care about PT will also be dead.
Yeah,
so
true.
It doesn't matter.
But it still might be worth money because
Maybe.
it has the game on there.
I mean, I'll sell it without my account with the data on it. Maybe that helps somebody.
Maybe.
But I have to assume that's been dumped online more times than you can count.
I hope by the time we die, you'll be able to sell our accounts for money. Because, dude, my account is ridiculous on all platforms.
I figure that's just going to hand down to...
Yeah, I'll give it to a relative who will sell it instead. Because they'll be like, I don't care. This account has, like, by at that point, my account will have thousands and thousands of games on it. And they'll be like, I don't want to play these games. Let's go to eBay. Whatever. They can do whatever they want. I'll be gone. I won't even know what the hell's going on. So anyway, there you go. Those are our Turkey Awards for 2022. And unlike last week, we do have Name That Game for you guys today. Let's get it. All right, it's Name That Game time. It's a very simple game. I show you 5 screenshots from a specific game, and you need to guess the name of the game, just like the title insinuates. You are playing against Matt, so somebody in our chat needs to guess the title of the game before Matt does. You guys win all ties. If he guesses the name of the game, and I look over and it appears in chat, you guys get the win. Whoever guesses the name of the game first gets a free game, and just coordinate. We'll coordinate that once the game is over, as far as you sending me your information so I can get you the free game. One other note before we get going, the chat is put onto slow mode, so you really only have one guess every 60 seconds. So don't just spam the chat with just random game titles, because you're not going to win. And you'll have to wait 60 seconds before you can guess again. So make your guesses count. Do not just
not
go...
Body Harvest.
Did someone guess that yet?
No. But we
Sinistar. Zet Saber said Sinistar. Okay, Vincent has enabled the 60-second slow mode. We are ready to go. Here comes the first screenshot, and go. I mean, right. That's all I can give you guys, or you'll get it on the first screenshot. You guys are too good at this.
Maybe it is the Stanley Parable.
It's not. It's not the Stanley Parable. Dwarf Fortress, no. Fear, no. That's a good guess, though, Pacrius.
I think Fear already was one of them, though.
Yeah, we did do Fear already, I think. Half-Life 2, no. Max Payne, no. Cookie Mama, no. Rainbow Six, no. Half-Life, no. Fear, no. 007, no. Splinter Cell, no.
Everybody's just trying to think of games with offices in them.
Pretty much. 50 Cent, nope. Okay. Control, no. Yeah, everyone's thinking of games that take place in office buildings, basically.
Fluorescent light.
Yep. Okay, on to the next one. Here we go. It's a foot. It's feet.
Foot. 2 feet.
It's feet. Call of Duty 4, no. From Commander Fett. Manhunt, no. GTA 2, no. GTA 4, no. And remember, you do have to get the right iteration of a franchise. Call of Cthulhu, no. Jerry Boulay, Max Payne, no. Pacrius, No Way Out, no. Call of Duty Modern Warfare, no. Ashes in the Hourglass, Max Payne the Third. Yes. It's Max Payne 3, but yeah, I'll give it to you, Ashes. Somebody guessed Max Payne just from the thing, but it was just Max Payne. They didn't guess Max Payne 3, but it is Max Payne 3. I'm not sure how you got that, man.
He does have those rumpled pants.
That's not his feet. That's an enemy's feet.
Maybe everybody has rumpled
Maybe.
pants in that game.
I recognize them jeans. But you got it. Ashes in the Hourglass. Here's your round of applause. Congratulations. I thought he had won already. No? I thought you had. I should have mentioned also that you can't win again. You have to wait till the year turns over if you've already won. Here are the last 3 shots. That's looking through like glass.
Right.
At an enemy. Here's the 4th one. See the head in the very bottom right there? I thought that might give it away because you could see what one of the enemies looks like.
I thought that was just the Twitch streamer playing the game.
Yep. And then here's the last one where you actually see Max Payne's head down there. And he's posted up. Ashes says, I did win. I didn't think it was the answer. Dude, you're supposed to not guess at all if you've already won. Oh. Which I also should have said at the beginning, but I've said it every time we've played like 100 times that you shouldn't guess if you've already won it. Hey, Fire Native says everyone knows enemies' genes from the Max Payne series. Cinetike, Shane amping up the obfuscation game. I'm not sure what that means.
Obfuscation.
What does that mean?
Hiding.
Oh. You thought these screenshots were too obtuse?
They're a little too... You go a little overboard, I think. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to find that sweet spot in the middle of where everyone won't guess it on the first... the people still guess it on the second shot.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You guys are just too good. Well, Ashes in the Hourglass, you weren't supposed to win again. And for next time, everybody...
It's funny, like, with my first thought when seeing this fluorescent thing was Max Payne, but I wouldn't probably never have guessed Max Payne 3.
Yeah. So anyway... I'll just say it again for next time. If you've won this year, do not play. Do not guess. Do not do anything. Just sit there and play the game that you won earlier in the year while other people play. Now, truth be told, in another 6 weeks, the year will turn over and everyone will be free to play again. But we want to get the games to new folks who have not won yet. So again, next week, don't forget that... if you've won already, do not play. Do not make any guesses. Do not do anything. As you can see, it just totally ruins today's game. After the game had been off for like 6 weeks. Anyway, we'll be back next week. Hopefully the guys who haven't won will get another chance at doing it. Sorry, Ashes. I guess I should have said that. I know you've been on the show stream like every week.
No, I think he was joking.
Oh. Why would he joke about that?
Because he didn't think that's what the answer was. But that's what he said.
But he's not supposed to guess. Like, no one's supposed to guess if you won. That's the other thing. You're not supposed to play at all. But anyway, thanks for playing, guys. Unfortunately, someone else won that had already won, so we'll get back at it next week. And now, it's time for some Q&A. Although, one last sound effect for Ashes in the Hourglass. Because he did ultimately win, even though he wasn't supposed to. All right, it's time for some Q&A. Go at Sifted Games in the chat so we can pluck it out from everybody pissed off about Name That Game for this week. Let's see if we've got any questions waiting for us. Cinetike says I wasn't criticizing, I was recognizing it as a positive. Good job. I mean, I could make this impossible, like if I wanted to. I could make it so you guys never guessed it, but I don't want to. I want you guys to guess it. Ideally, you guys get it on the 4th or the 5th image. That's what I'm shooting for. So if you guys get it on the 1st or the 2nd, I feel like I've failed. The Legacy, for the Turkey Awards, did you guys forget about Crossfire, or was the other stuff worse in your opinion? I don't even know what I'm just saying how bad the game was.
Crossfire was a horrible disaster because it was, it was the most popular shooter in Korea, and it came over here with like some I can't remember who made it, but it was like it had a campaign, but apparently it was just awful. But no,
it was awful. We talked about it here on the show. But it was terrible.
I didn't forget.
But I thought it was going to be terrible.
Yeah, I didn't.
I didn't think it was going to be good.
It was terrible. Basically, that was a horrible disaster. But I didn't no skin off mine really.
JM Rain, thank you for the tier 1 subs, man. We appreciate it. Nobody's asked me about Terrifier. Remember last week in chat, people were like, "Shane, have you seen Terrifier 2, the movie?"
Yeah.
So let me just pop back on the camera here. Holy crap. Dude, Terrifier. So, Matt, I didn't even watch Terrifier 2. I watched Terrifier 1 because Terrifier 1 you can watch for free on YouTube. Uncensored, I would add. And, oh my God. So, I was like, I just want to get an idea of what Terrifier is about before I pay the money. You have to pay to rent Terrifier 2. So, I was like, I'm just going to watch Terrifier 1 for free on YouTube and get the gist of it and see if it's worth watching the sequel. Holy crap. It is like the most depraved slasher movie I've ever seen. It literally is just about a clown who dresses in white makeup and a white outfit that just murders people. Like, it starts in, like, this restaurant. He shows up, and he murders everybody in a restaurant, and then they end up going to, like, this industrial warehouse, and he just murders people for, like, an hour and a half straight in the most awful ways possible. Matt, one of the worst murder scenes I've ever seen in a movie, and I have seen terrible ones, is there's a shot where he has a woman hanging upside down with her legs spread naked, and he gets a hacksaw and comes back and saws her in half, starting at her vajayjay. And they don't cut it. It's on YouTube for free, where you can just watch it uncensored. And they don't cut it. They show him sawing through her whole body. It's insane.
And is it, like, convincing, or just
yes.
obviously a dummy?
It's like some of the best practical effects I've ever seen. And this is the first one when they had no budget. So I'll be honest with you. Holy crap. That caught me off guard. And I am a little gorehound, and I love gory movies. But, man. And the other thing that they did for the first one was they shot it with grain. I don't know, maybe it's post-processing, but the whole thing is grainy like a 70s
grain
horror
is almost
flick.
always post-processing now.
But it's the whole thing shot like a 70s horror flick, and it's shot and lit very well. Like, the production quality in it is really great. Like, the plot's dumb. They don't really explain, like, why he wants to kill people.
It doesn't seem like that's the point.
There's really, like, no plot at all. It's just this clown just murdering
Like,
people.
I heard it's basically it's like an effects reel.
It is amazing effects. Like, I haven't even watched the second one because I watched the first one. I was like, hot damn, I gotta, like, take a break. I need to, like, press the reset button. It was that insane. Like, and the effects are amazing. Like, they didn't get, like, a big name. Like, the guy who wrote the film and directed the film also did the practical effects. And he's good, man. Like, it was really, really good, the effects in it. So I have not watched Terrifier 2 yet. I do think I might watch it this weekend, though, after I've kind of cooled my boots a little bit. But thank you very much for the recommendation, man.
Swanland says Terrifier 2 is 10 times worse.
Now, see, so I went and looked, and a lot of people think that it isn't. They say that there's more gore, but it's not as, like, disturbing as the first one. I don't know.
All right.
But, hot damn, man. You guys definitely turned me on to a movie that I had no... It has been out for a while. Like, Terrifier 1 is, like 8 years old or something. It took them a long time to make the second one. I had no idea it was even out there. So thank you guys, I think. Anyway, back to the Q&A. From AJ the Legend Watson. Not sure if Matt has talked about it. However, I wonder what his thoughts are on the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 arcade 1-up machine.
My thoughts are that it's downstairs.
He has it. It is literally downstairs in his dining room right now. And when I came here last week, he had gotten it, and I got to check it out. It's pretty sweet, man.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, that's the whole series, plus a couple of Super Nintendo games for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
It's very good. But he does point out, like, the leaderboards are still not up for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Nobody really knows why.
That's weird.
Because it does have online play. You can play any of the fighting games online. And I've played...
It's a Wi-Fi, though, right?
Wi-Fi, yeah, but it works pretty well. I mean, I'm getting, like, 50 ping.
Oh, good.
On like, X-Men and Marvel
That's great.
superheroes. There is leaderboards for everybody for all the games except MVC2. And it just says coming soon, and nobody really knows why.
That's weird.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, but otherwise you love it, right?
Yeah, it's great.
And how much was it again?
600.
Steep. It
Yeah.
ain't cheap.
Gonna be more.
Yeah.
Now it's gone.
It's also not that tall. It felt like the top of the cabinet came to, like, here on me, maybe.
Yeah, it's a 3/4 scale.
Yeah.
The 1-up machines are 3/4 scale, so it's also on a riser.
Oh, it is down there.
Yeah, because it comes with a little, like, square box that you build
okay.
and you put on top.
They
of it.
know.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
because it's like 4 feet tall. Otherwise,
It seemed that way. Yeah, it seemed
without
like
the box is like 4 feet tall. With it, it's like closer to 5'3" or something.
Yeah. I had to look down a little bit. But without the riser, I would have had to have looked down a good bit.
Oh yeah, you couldn't play it without the riser. You
Yeah.
have to sit down to play it without the riser.
Well, it's like a cocktail table.
They also make that. They do make a cocktail version
Of that?
Of
Of the
most of their
sit-down.
stuff. But you can get eventually. At least I don't know if it's available now, but there will be an MVC2 cocktail version. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but because you're basically playing the game head to head with like 2 screens.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that would be weird. How would they make that work?
It's just that each person gets their own screen, basically.
So it's more expensive, I'm guessing?
Probably about the same.
Yeah.
Normally, you'd expect a cocktail machine to be less expensive, but in this case, it'd probably be... Because usually the cocktail table would be the same screen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't need 2 screens for Pac-Man.
Right.
But in this case, I think you do need a longer screen to show 2 horizontal images.
Yeah, for sure.
It's good. It uses whatever emulator, probably some kind of MAME version, and everything runs very well. Everything plays very well.
Worth $600?
To me, it was. Like, a lot of those games aren't available any other way. You know, like the certainly X-Men, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men versus Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter never left the Saturn and the PlayStation 1. There are no collections of them currently, I don't think.
Yeah.
And it's still hard to get MVC and MVC2 outside of that one collection they did that I don't think is available anymore. So, and this is obviously as good as it gets. There's, decent, or, it's not quite, Sanwa buttons, but like it's good. It plays well.
The sticks and the buttons felt good. For sure.
So, I got no... Other than the fact that it's light enough that if I really move it, I can turn the machine sideways. Other than that, it's a pretty great setup.
Okay. Sneaky, Charlotte Snake, you've done your turkeys, but anything positive this year to name? Yeah, we'll do those in our Game of the Year awards in about a month. Yeah.
Maybe less than a month.
Yeah, actually less than a month. Yeah. We'll be doing our Game of the Year. You have to wait for those. What's your guys' favorite gaming OST? I feel like they've asked us this a million times. Phantasy Star Online. I say it every time.
I don't know about narrowing that down to one.
Yeah, it's hard. Norix Nessie 94. What do you think about Xbox and PlayStation subscription services slowing growth? Do you think Game Pass and PlayStation Plus is at a ceiling, or do you feel like they can still grow? So that is kind of a big story, actually, that PlayStation Plus, since it launched its new tiers and its whole new program, has lost subscribers. Why do you think that is, Matt?
There aren't infinite people.
Yeah.
That's it,
But some people have decided that they no longer wanted the service. So are those people just people who didn't play online very often? Or
probably. And the price changes or the shifting made them realize, why am I still paying for this?
Sometimes you alert people. When you do stuff like this, you make people think about where they're spending their money. And they're like, wait a minute, why am I paying for this?
Yeah. I mean,
there's a law of diminishing returns with this. There's only so many consoles out there.
So many consoles, so many people are interested in paying for that. So many, there's only so much you can do with it. And it's not really an issue. It doesn't really matter. It only matters if you believe the infinite growth capitalism myth. Yeah. And quite frankly, at some point, you're going to have to accept that your company makes, $3 billion a year, and it's not going to make much more than that. And honestly, good.
Dude, it's absurd with Apple. It's like, how much more money can a company make?
Yeah, Apple shareholders in particular are more nonsensical about that than anyone else.
It's just like watching CNBC, and they're criticizing Apple. They're like, no, have you left the United States and seen how many people wear Apple Watches and how many people have iPhones? It's insane. These people nitpicking Apple is shut the F up. Dude, if
they're doing fine.
Well, they can't do any better. They cannot do any better.
But there must be infinite growth for the shareholder. That is the myth that has been sold.
It's funny, if just ever seeing Apple stock go down, it's what are you doing? Why? Why would you ever sell Apple stock? They make more money than God. It's so weird. The whole stock market is just weird. I don't get it. El Guapo 3385. Which side do you fall on? Does Elden Ring have a narrative argument? We actually talked about this off camera, I think. I believe the subtext and lore are there, but From Software games don't have a traditional narrative structure. Yeah, so Elden Ring has been nominated for best narrative for the Game Awards, and I think that's a bunch of bullshit.
You can like the narrative in that game, but there's a lot better to choose from this year.
There's better to choose from, and better ways that they're delivered than the way they are in that game.
And the other thing, and I talked about it when we talked about Elden Ring, and probably more times after that, but my issue is that I get that they present it in the way they present it, but I've looked, I've experienced it as presented, and I've watched the videos that kind of boil it all down to here's what happened exactly, and here's the order of things and stuff. I don't think it's a very interesting story.
Yeah.
That's the thing about the From games is okay, yeah, you have to work really hard to get the story out and see all the little bits of the narrative. I don't think any of those games have very compelling narratives, and they're all kind of the same.
Dude, I just glaze over. I remember
it's just like, king, god, person in the distant past did bad thing with magic, and light went away, fire went away, thing went away, good thing went away. Now everything sucks, and you have to like bring the light, the good thing, the other thing back. It's like as
Marcus Beer would say, it's a bunch of wank.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's a bunch of wank.
And Elden Ring has a little bit of advantage because the backstory to the world is interesting, because that's the part that George R. R. Martin wrote. And then you get to a certain point, I guess the Shattering or whatever it was, and then that's when From just takes what he wrote and twisted it to be Dark Souls again.
Pretty much.
And and again, I don't care. Like I don't care.
I didn't need a story.
It's all window dressing to me. I'm just going through to kill shit. I'm fine playing the game without having to know every single nuance of who Melania is and all that shit. I don't care.
Yeah. But to nominate it for best narrative,
I mean, I have to believe part of the nomination for best narrative there is to just keep the fanboys off your back.
Yeah,
because otherwise you're going to scream about it.
You got to think the fanboys even have to admit that the story's just whatever.
They do not admit that. No,
it's insane. I remember I was playing Shane versus
because they're very
Elden Ring.
proud of themselves for digging it out of the holes you got to go for. It's like an accomplishment to them.
I was playing Shane versus Elden Ring on a stream, and I went into a room and some girl started blathering on about some nonsense, and I just like ignored it or what, and people in chat were like, oh my god, it's the story, what are you doing, you're completely missing the story. I'm like, I don't care, it's a bunch of friggin' nonsense. Like, anyway, it's funny perspective. But yeah, I agree with you, like that's a very odd nomination, and you may be right, Matt, it may be placating the fans, because the fans do seem kind of insane. Zet Saber Juno, will Cutter be DLC in the next FIFA game? No beer allowed. Dude, that is one of the craziest bait and switches I have ever seen in my life.
I mean, I kind of applaud them for how
how
much they played FIFA on that one, because fuck FIFA. But
FIFA does suck, let's be honest.
Absolutely. But at the same time, so does the theocracy.
Damn.
Like that
I mean, they just straight up lied to get the World Cup, and then just didn't even shamelessly was like, nope, we're not doing it now.
And I do love Budweiser's quick. They deleted it very fast, but Budweiser was like, well, that sucks. they tweeted something like that.
They sponsored the whole freaking
it was
World
like,
Cup.
oh, well, this is awkward. Because that was a $75 million campaign.
Dude. I know. Cutter does not
and now all
care.
they can do is get, and Qatar's like, you can have near beer. You have non-alcoholic beer. And
they have O'Doul's.
Oh, yeah. All the British football fans are like, what?
Or you can go into this drinking zone place that's like miles away from the stadium, and they're going to breathalyze you before they let you out of it, because they don't want drunk people on their streets. It's just crazy.
Like, what if we just entered the 20th century and pretended that... I don't know.
Yeah, it's nuts.
My basically everyone sucks here.
Yeah.
And I just feel sorry for the people who travel and spend all that money to travel there and aren't going to get to watch football the way they like to watch football.
Okay, we're going to answer one more question. Actually, two more. We're going to answer one, and then we're going to answer the second one, because I know the second one's going to take us to the end of the show. First up, Swanland, how many more games do you have to give out? I have plenty, Swanland. I have plenty of games to give out for the rest of the year, so you don't have to worry about giving us any more. And again, everyone thanks Swanland. He supplies all the prizes for Name That Game, all the free games that we give out for that. So thank you very much. And then the final question that I know is going to take the rest of the show, which is why I'm leaving it for last, after I thank Gohan Rage for Twitch Prime, is your Wakanda Forever review. I'm assuming that will take us to the end of the show.
It could, yeah. I liked it a lot. I don't think it was as good as the first one. I hope Angela Bassett's back is okay from carrying that whole first half of the movie on it. I don't agree with some of the choices in it, mostly involving...
I haven't seen it yet.
So. Mostly involving the Talakan characters. Like, I thought Namor was great. I like the change to why his name is Namor. I don't understand... So, in the change to the name is that he takes it from the Spanish colonizers who say that he is the child with no love. So basically Niño sin amor, and so he's Namor. That's his name. And then so I'm like, oh, okay. So because there's always been an argument over how you pronounce his name. Namor the Submariner is more or less how Stan Lee said it. Yeah. But you could say it Namor, Namor, all that stuff. Somebody said Submariner, which just doesn't make any sense. He's the mariner under the sea. It's Submariner.
Submariner, yeah.
But the reason his name is Namor is because it's Roman backwards. Because Atlantis was supposed to be like ancient Rome. That's why his catchphrase was Imperius Rex. Latin. Like that's the gag there. That's how Stan Lee named people. Namor. So when he said that in the movie, he says, Namor. And so I'm like, oh, okay, so his name is Namor now. Okay, that's interesting. And then everyone else in the movie calls him Namor for the rest of the fucking movie. Like everyone in the same scene, the Wakandans
sounds like
we have to deal with this Namor guy. I'm like, he said his name was Namor. I don't know why you're saying his name like an American would say it. Like
right.
So, okay, his name is Namor, except when he says it and it's Namor.
Yeah.
I thought that was weird.
Yeah.
But I thought he was great. The guy Tenok, the guy playing Namor is fantastic, and I hope they use him constantly in the MCU going forward. He's a lot of fun. He nails Namor for exactly the kind of exact balance of cool jerk he should be. I don't like that the other people, the Talakon or Atlantean, formerly Atlanteans. In the comics, they are not superpowered, and in this, they are to make them a more formidable threat to the Wakandans. And I think that felt like contrived to me. It made Namor a little less special.
Okay.
And I would have liked them to be normal, because otherwise it feels almost like, oh no, they're never going to be able to beat these because they're superpowered. Like, that's not fair. Like, if you just make them an equal civilization that also has vibranium, and Wakanda's never fought anything like, they've never had to face another enemy on their level like that. That's an interesting enough conflict to me.
For sure.
You don't need beyond that. I was a little disappointed I love Ironheart. Riri Williams as a character. She's one of my favorite characters, new characters in the Marvel comics. I was very much looking forward to her. Also, if you play the Marvel Champions card game, she's amazing in that. I was very much looking forward to her being in the movie, because I really like her. And also, I love Iron Man. I love Tony Stark stuff, and I miss having Iron Man suits running around. I know Rhodey's in there, but Rhodey doesn't get a lot of action as War Machine, or like it won't until Armor Wars. But like, I was excited to have Iron Man tech back in the mix, and she does. She gets a cool suit, but she doesn't really get to do anything. Like, the action,
really?
I think the action was very good in this, outside of one fight in the middle of the movie. The rest of it, the character stuff is very good. Like, the acting's very good. The addressing of Chadwick Boseman's death is exceptionally well done.
That's my first big question. Actually, they handle it well.
They do handle that very well. It is interesting in that it's the only Marvel movie, I think, that requires outside knowledge of the film. Like, most Marvel movies, I think, like 50 years from now, you'll be able to watch them and understand what's happening for the most part. Whereas this, it doesn't make sense to kill off T'Challa unless you know that Chadwick Boseman died.
Right.
And so it's one of the few Marvel movies you have to have outside knowledge of the real world to understand what happens and it happens. Yeah. But having dealt with that, it does make a lot of sense the direction they take it. I think it makes a lot of sense to not have recast him. Not yet, because it just wouldn't have felt right. I still believe it wouldn't have felt right.
It's still too early, honestly.
Yeah. Also, they get to make this as kind of a goodbye and a tribute to him. Also, a large chunk of what Black Panther 1 is about is not necessarily about, because he's gone through kind of an evolution, a character arc in Civil War already with Zemo and his vengeance idea, and he has sort of a growth in Black Panther 1, but in terms of figuring out what Killmonger wants and trying to decide whether he understands that Killmonger kind of has a point or not. But a large chunk of Black Panther 1 is more or less about the strong black women that have been around T'Challa his whole life.
Absolutely.
And this movie focuses very much on them, because that's the cast who's left. Cast who's left. And I thought that was going to be a good choice, whether Chadwick Boseman was still with us or not. Yep. And I do, and it is a sad thing to watch, and sort of like I love watching a lot of these characters. Ramonda is fantastic, and like. Because Angela Bassett's fantastic. Like, they all do a really good job. Letitia Wright has a hard time carrying the second half of the movie, I think, because I think Shuri's a little underwritten, and they didn't let her cut loose a little bit with how T'Challa's death affected her. Like, they should have let her be a little more raw.
Okay.
But it more or less comes together. I've seen it twice now, and it comes. Okay. It came together. The second time I watched it, came together, and I saw a lot more little details and sort of where they're going early on to where they end up, and like, so that all kind of hangs together. I think a second viewing really brings it all together in a way that you maybe don't get the first time around.
Which film do you like better of the two?
Black Panther, the first one.
Yeah.
I like the first. But
Does
also,
it stand out better?
It stands out a little better. It's a little tighter. Killmonger is a stronger... I mean, Namor's great, but Killmonger is a stronger villain in part because Killmonger has a really good point. Chadwick Boseman is one of the most watchable people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And one of the sad things about this one, of course, is that I think if Chadwick Boseman was still alive, I think... and inevitably they made more Black Panther movies, I think a Black Panther trilogy with Chadwick Boseman would probably be the strongest trilogy in the Marvel Cinematic
Probably,
Universe.
yeah. I mean, it was headed that way, that's for sure.
There's and there's little things you see that there's so much world building they pay attention to with Wakanda and with Talokan. Talokan is a very well-designed world as well, based on the Mesoamerican kind of Aztec stuff, and that's really fascinating to see, at the bottom of the ocean and stuff. That's cool. Little things I know, like the first time I saw it, I thought it was kind of weird and maybe silly that when they fly in early on, when they fly to go through the shield around Wakanda, it cuts to the guys who kind of man the shield, and to open it, they play these it's like a computer console, except it's got water in it, and they play it like a drum to open the shield. And I'm like, that's a little, like Wakanda doesn't like buttons, like that's a little odd. But then watching it last time I saw it, the second time I saw it. I was thinking about that because I thought that was it's an interesting visual. It's very Afrofuturist visual, but I thought it was a little weird. But then during the funeral procession of T'Challa at the very beginning, the first scene, you see him in the trailer as the two guys playing the drums on the roof with the mural of Chadwick Boseman behind them, and they're switching back and forth between the two drums in complete sync with each other.
Yeah.
And it was a moment where I was like, what if in Wakandan culture that drum playing is symbolic and associated with the opening of a way? Yeah. And so having the controls to the gate, to the shield, be a drum control is how they think of how you open something to another world. And to them, that would be opening to the other world of the outside versus the world of them.
It's also a pretty good security really cool feature.
Yeah, no one else would know the rhythm.
Right.
Yeah. But I thought, and the little things like that, or the fact that at one point in Talokan you see... they have that Aztec game where the ring on the side of the wall and you bump the ball through it. It's a real world thing where it's a big stone ring, and you have to. And the rule was always you can't use your hands or feet. You have to bump it with your body and get the ball. And of course, the losing team. Some believe that they were killed.
Yeah, right. Thrown down to the bin of the pit.
But so that's obviously one of the sports they play there.
Yeah.
And you see that later in the movie, but earlier on, there's a thing where Atuma, who's one of the big bad, he's one of the right hand guy who fights Okoye all the time, and they have these grenades that explode in big water bursts, and at one point one of the other soldiers throws him a grenade so he can throw it at Okoye, and it gets to him, and instead of grabbing it and throwing it or knocking it towards her with his spear or something, he bumps it with his hip. Because he's played that game his whole life, and he's really good at it. So that's his best way of throwing something at someone. And I thought that little touches like that, where they think about how these characters and these cultures would do things like that. I love that. That's all through the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would go with the first one a little more. But also because the first Black Panther was a cultural touchstone in a way that very few things ever. I mean, it's basically, I would say that and the first Avengers are the two kind of biggest, most I would say they're the two most important tentpole blockbuster films of that decade.
I'd agree. Yep.
I mean, obviously, Infinity War and Endgame were big because of the climax, but in terms of impact, Black Panther is hard to match, and it's their only Best Picture nominee, and will probably remain their only Best Picture nominee for some time.
The way things are going right now, it may be forever.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I think Black Panther is one of the best MCU movies.
Yeah, me too.
I would be in my top 5 easy.
Yeah. Top 3 for me.
Top 3 on a good day as well. It goes back and forth. None of my movie rankings are ever forever.
They're fluid. Yeah.
This one is probably top 3rd, but and I think look, they did a really good job in the Impossible Situation.
Yeah, tough.
Also, the music is phenomenal. It should.
So you're saying go see it. Everyone
definitely go see it. The score also it's 3 hours. I think it's 3 hours something, or almost 3 hours. It doesn't. I think it's 240. Is it 240? No, it's longer than that. I think it's actually longer than that. It doesn't feel as long as it is. Even on the second viewing, that it moves like a bat.
That's another reason fast. Why I didn't watch Terrifier 2, because it's over 2 hours long.
That's a long effects reel.
Nobody makes a horror movie that's 2. I was like, I don't think I can make it. It's just too much. So anyway, I will go see Wakanda Forever. Black Panther probably actually maybe my second favorite MCU film.
It's way up there.
It's amazing.
It's excellent.
Yeah. So there you go. There's Matt's review of Wakanda Forever. I knew it would get us to the end of the show.
It is definitely the best MCU movie of the year.
Which isn't saying a whole lot.
Maybe not saying a whole lot. I like them all, but this is definitely the best one.
Yeah.
And it's a neck and neck for between best Phase 4 movie, because I also like Spider-Man a lot.
Okay. All right.
But, yeah, definitely. If you're gonna see one Marvel Cinematic Universe movie in the theaters this year, you should make it Black Panther.
Okay.
And a lot of people did, because it's doing
really well.
Very well.
Yep. That's gonna do it for GameFace episode 3, 2, 1. Contact. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. I hope you guys travel safe and you get to see family, you get to eat some great food, get to watch some football, all the fun stuff that comes along with Thanksgiving, passing out on the couch from tryptophan, all that good stuff. Hopefully you get your favorite foods. I know I have people in my family that make very specific dishes that I can't wait, but I'll be doing Thanksgiving by myself this year. But my aunt makes this awesome, like, potato casserole with cornflakes on top.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Incredible. And I always look forward to that. So hopefully all you guys have the same, something that someone in your family makes that you can't wait to eat, and you get to eat it here over the next couple days. If you're traveling right now on the way to meet family, I hope your travels go safe and you end up getting to spend time with the people that you really love and you really care about. The nuts and bolts of GameFace were supported 100% by Patreon. If you want to help us out, head to patreon.com/sifted. It is the holiday season, and so some people have been giving us donations. If you'd like to do that, you can just go to sifted.net/donate, and you can literally type in any amount that you want, and you can pay with a credit card, accepted in like 300 countries or whatever. You can give us $5, whatever you want, if you just want to say thanks for all the work that we've done throughout the year to bring you guys great content. So again, head to patreon.com/sifted and drop us a pledge. Whatever you can do would be awesome. And if you're broke and it is holiday season, a lot of people need their money to buy gifts for their loved ones. I totally get it. You can help us for free with Twitch Prime. And if you're watching on YouTube, the instructions for doing that are down below. And it's very, very easy. My mom, who's 70-some years old, has even figured out how to do it. So you can too. I know you can. But anyway, that's it for us.
Now you transition to Mr. Rogers.
What do you say?
Now you transition to Mr. Rogers. I know you can. I know you can do it.
Yep. So anyway, that's it for GameFace. We will be back next Tuesday. Same time, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/SiftedGames. And we'll have a couple games to talk about, I think. But we're kind of winding things down here for 2022. We only have a few episodes left, and one of those will be our Game of the Year award. So hopefully you guys are excited for Christmas break. I know some of you guys, it's not Thanksgiving because you're not in America. I don't even know, do they even have anything like Thanksgiving in Europe?
I don't think so.
I don't think they do. Canada has its own Thanksgiving.
That already happened.
And that already happened, yeah. So I do realize I'm preaching to just our American audience here.
Yeah, there was no taking food from the indigenous people celebration in Europe, really. That already happened. It was called the Fall of Rome.
But to be fair, like 60% of our audience is in the United States, so I always feel like we should talk about some of our big holidays. Yeah.
Always feels like the chat's mostly Euro.
No, well, maybe because like people in America are still at work.
Right.
People in Europe just got off of work. They're like chilling on their Tuesday night or whatever. So yeah, I think a big part of our audience for our live stuff is people from Europe, and we appreciate you guys very much for showing up. You guys help make GameFace what it is, and we appreciate it. So on behalf of Matt, who you can find on Twitter at mkeil, that's MKEIL. I'm Shane Satterfield. You can find me on Twitter at Dinfire. I don't know for how much longer, though. I think I'm leaving Twitter here pretty soon. And you can find Sifted on Twitter at Sifted Games. And that's where you want to go to find out when the shows are going live and all the stuff happening at Sifted. So I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. GameFace is up and out.